Hello everyone, this is the movie 3 finale of What If Naruto Was a True Genius, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Sunday rubbed her aching head. Things were not going well, to say the least. There had been 3 attacks in 2 days. She couldn't believe they hadn't caught them yet. These guys were as arrogant as they could be. They practically signed the names wherever they attacked. They were called the Sound Four. Tsunade sighed. Apparently, her former teammate had some cronies that weren't too happy. It was ridiculous. She had sent everyone after these guys, well, almost everyone. There was one more team she could try. She snapped her fingers, and an Anbu captain appeared in front of her. "Get me Team Fox," she ordered. The Anbu nodded, then left. Team Fox entered the Hokage's office. They each came prepared for a mission. Naruto was wearing his hood to hide his ears, but his gear remained the same. Hinata wore the same gear as before with the exception of a small silver tube that was stuck in her vest's pocket. Kyuubi wore the same as he always did, black shirt and pants with a red vest. He looked slightly downtrodden. "Good morning, Tsunade-sama," Naruto said. Tsunade looked at the clock hanging on the wall. "Good afternoon." His alarm clock didn't sound this morning, Hinata said, explaining Naruto's choice of greeting. Tsunade nodded. "I see. But on another matter, you have probably guessed, I have a mission for you." She looked up at the 3 eager ninjas. "Have you ever heard of the Sound Four?" "No, I don't think so," Hinata answered. "Not really," Kyuubi said. "Wasn't it a rock band?" Naruto asked. "The Sound Four is what's left of Orochimaru's ninja forces." "Ah," the team said in unison. "And to put it simply, they're a bunch of sore losers." "So I take it they've been attacking Konoha," Naruto said. "Yes, they've made 3 attacks in 2 days' time." "I see. Why have you chosen us, though?" Naruto asked. "Because every other team I sent failed to catch them." Well, if you will give my team a second to discuss this." "Of course." Naruto called a huddle and the hushed voices of his teammates was all the Hokage heard. Then they broke and Naruto stepped up to the Hokage's desk. "We'll do it, but we'll need a report on all of the hit locations until now." "I will get it to you as soon as possible," Tsunade said. "Just deliver to the Namikaze mansion. I'll have a shadow clone waiting." "Will do, and good luck." After receiving the dossier, the team started using the information to find the next possible target. The first day they had attacked the north side of the Uchiha compound. The second day they attacked the south side of the compound and they attacked a small street that Naruto recognized as the street with Sakura's house on it. Well, it seems obvious that they want a shot at Sasuke, after who is at the Uchiha compound other than him. Naruto said. "The only thing that baffles me is why they went to that street. It looks like we have to pay Sasuke a visit then," Hinata said. Naruto agreed and they started for Sasuke's house. When they arrived they smelled the scent of baking snickerdoodles. Naruto knocked on the door. The door opened and Naruto stepped inside. "Never thought you were the baking type, Sasuke," he said as he pushed past Sasuke. Sasuke steadied himself against the wall as Naruto came by. "Please come in," he said with enough sarcasm in his voice to fill a bucket. He began to close the door. "I think we will," Hinata said, her foot suddenly in the doorway. Sasuke looked back surprised, and then quickly reopened the door. "Sorry." As soon as Hinata and Kyuubi entered, Sasuke closed the door. "So I'm assuming you're here about the attacks made on the compound." "Yes, that's why we're here." "Well, shouldn't you be investigating the areas they crashed in on?" "No, we know why they came here. What we want to know is what they were doing near Sakura's house." Sasuke jumped. "What? Sakura? Is she all right?" "Sit down, lovebird," Hinata said. "She's fine." "Lovebird," Sasuke said indignantly. Hinata simply stared at him with a knowing glare. "Anyway," Naruto began, "we gathered from the fact that they attacked the compound twice that they want you, so why would they go to Sakura's street?" There was silence for a second or two, and then Sasuke said, "Well, would you believe I needed a cup of sugar?" The team looked at each other. "I found my mom's cookbook, and she used to make the greatest snickerdoodles, so I tried to make some. Halfway through the recipe, I found out I didn't have enough sugar. So I ran to the closest person who would for sure let me borrow some. They must have seen me. Oh, if anybody got hurt, I'll never forgive myself. Hey, relax, okay. Nobody was hurt, Naruto said. Are you sure? Yes, we got a full report on all their attacks, Hinata answered. Anyway, one more question, we need to know when they have been attacking. Naruto said. It's always just after sundown. Alright. Naruto turned, oh, one more thing, we're going to need your help. Sundown. How melodramatic. Sasuke thought as he stood in the center of the Uchiha compound, and so cliché, at that. A soft breeze blew by, rustling some leaves nearby. Hello, Sasuke. A voice said behind him. Sasuke turned without so much as batting an eyelid. The sound four, I presume. Before him stood four figures, each wearing a gray tunic, on which was printed a pure white yin-yang. You presume correctly. One of them said, he was large and had an orange mohawk hairstyle. You presume correctly. Another one said, this one was a girl who had fiery red hair and a sheath-like object hanging from her belt. What the F underscore? That is the F underscoring stupidest piece of S asterisk 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 to ever crawl out of your F underscoring mouth. Ladies shouldn't use that kind of language. The large one said. Excuse me for interrupting your little dialogue here, Sasuke said, but why are you here? We are here for you. Another one said, he had a darker shade of skin and 6 arms. Well, sorry to tell you this, but I'm spoken for, you see there's this girl I like and. Well, aren't you the funny one? The last one said, he looked normal for the most part, except for a large growth on his back that looked a lot like another head. Saken, don't insult him, we do want him to accept our offer. The man with 6 arms said. Whatever, Kid Umaru, you just did that so you could suck up to the boss. Saken said. Shut the F underscore up. The both of you. What I did to deserve working with a bunch of S asterisk asterisk heads like you, I'll never know. The redhead said. Tayuya, please stop using language like that. Shut up, fart $. She retorted. Sasuke cleared his throat. The 4 sound nins stopped their bickering and looked at him. Your offer. Ah, yes, Jirubo. Kidumaru offered. The large one stepped forward. We are aware of your cursed seal. That sure is to the point. Yes. We, having seals like it, know that you can acquire a new stage in this seal and there are 2 ways to do it. The first is having it slowly integrate itself with you, however, when it does you will die, or you can take a drug that Orochimaru perfected, which will allow you to revive afterward. Hang on, let me get this straight, the only way to unlock the level 2 curse seal is to die. Yes. And that's what Orochimaru told you. There was silence for a second. Yes. Well, I don't know how to break it to you, but you've been screwed. What the F underscore are you talking about? Tayuya asked. Wheel, I unlocked it by training my butt off. There was complete silence. Tayuya recovered first. What the F underscore? He F underscoring lied to us. We work our F underscoring butts off for him because we owe him a favor that never F underscoring existed. Apparently, Sasuke said. And if you want to know the worst part, a voice said, suddenly a yellow flash appeared behind Sasuke, that seal was one of the easiest to remove. You'd be wise to stay put. Kyuubi said, appearing behind them suddenly. Trust us, it's for the best. Hinata said, a kunai in each hand. Sound 4, Sasuke said, I'd like you to meet some friends of mine, Team Fox. Hinata, can you give me the odds? Naruto asked. A 4-on-4 battle, percentage of beating the snot out of them, 82%. Well let me increase the odds, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Suddenly 4 Naruto clones joined the original. How are the odds now? Somewhere in the 90s. That's good news. You think some clones are enough to stop us? Saken asked. No, I think some clones and the Harashin no Jutsu are enough. Suddenly all the clones disappeared in bright flashes of yellow light, then reappeared right in front of their targets' heads. They ducked, and the clones missed, except one, mostly because Jirubo was slower than a turtle. He dropped like a bag of rocks. The others reacted instantly. Kidumaru quickly created 6 golden daggers. Tayuya summoned her Doki, and Saken ran to face Sasuke in battle. Sasuke met him head-on, Sharingan blazing. Hinata went for Kidumaru, Kyuubi as backup, while Naruto tried his luck with the Doki and Tayuya. Sasuke found a whole new challenge in his fight with Saken. Blocking more than 2 punches at a time was rather interesting, but easily overcome. After a few minutes, Sasuke simply got bored. So he began to back Saken to a training area he used often. Quickly, he pulled out 3 shuriken and threw them at his target. Saken easily dodged them all, but then was suddenly pulled to a training pole by an unseen force. What? Simple trip wires. Sasuke said, a Genin-level attack method, something completely unexpected from a Junin like myself. Saken glared at him. Now for the follow-up Chunin-level attack. Ryuka no Jutsu. Suddenly the wires ignited and the flame raced toward the training pole and engulfed it in an inferno. How dare you? A voice said. Sasuke looked to the side of the burning pole, and saw something disturbing. He blinked several times. It looked exactly like Saken, with the exception of the growth, which was no longer there. How dare you kill my brother? That explained a few things. Prepare to die. Hinata, Kidomaru, and Kyuubi were all caught in a deadlock. Kidomaru was suing 4 of his hands to keep Kyuubi from slashing his throat open, and he was using the other 2 to parry Hinata's 2 kunai. Normally, he simply hold the man behind him with 2 hands and punch the one in front of him, except that Kyuubi had used much more power in his attack than expected, and forced Kidomaru to use some backup. Luckily, he had a backup plan. He spit. Hinata yelled with surprise as a golden mucus-like substance covered her eyes. Kidomaru used the opportunity to slash his golden daggers at Kyuubi. When the Biju saw this, he retreated instantly, and stepped back a few paces. Suddenly, Kidomaru heard the word Byakugan, and turned just fast enough to see Hinata come at him. She began slashing at him as if she could see in broad daylight. Kyuubi ran away from the conflict. Hinata began slashing like a psychopath, but it was more controlled. Then she threw one of her kunai, quickly preformed some hand sings and punched the boy like no one had ever punched before, vortex punch jutsu. Kidomaru flew back, and landed on the ground with a dull thud. Then he saw it, a charging red battering ram with 2 plow-like blades. It was Kyuubi, about to slice him to pieces with 2 of his tails. That was the last thing he saw. Naruto was have a great time. Before the battle, he had placed Hiraishin seals on the potential field. And it was working wonderfully. Every time one of Tayuya's doki approached him, he simply teleported. The look on her face was priceless. In actual truth, she would have snarled at him, but this was very hard to do when playing a flute, so instead she glared daggers at him. These failed, miserably. So she continued her melody, which, however sweet, was filled with malice. Naruto decided to end this. He drew his sword, and as soon as the blade was out of the sheath, 2 of the doki tripped over their own feet. He teleported again, and sliced down. Tayuya dodged, and survived. Her flute was not so lucky. It took 2 wrong notes for her to realize what happened. She simply stared at her cleaved instrument for a brief second. Then she screamed a scream that signaled the end of her world. Then she fainted without as much as a breath. Naruto looked down on her unconscious body and said, I should have done that sooner. The 4 regrouped at the center of the compound. How did it go? A little disappointing, Sasuke said. Hinata was rubbing the area around her eyes. It was disgusting. It was all right, Kyuubi said. I think it was a little too easy, Naruto said. The 4 looked at each other then laughed. Here they were after a battle acting as if it were a test. All right, Naruto said. How many survivors? I have 2, the girl and the fat guy. I have 1, Sasuke said. There was silence for a second. That's it, Naruto asked. Silence. Okay, let's get these suckers to Tsunade. Naruto turned to Jirubo. I may need some help. After they moved Jirubo, the 4 ninjas came back for Akon and Tayuya. Akon was where Sasuke left him, but Tayuya was nowhere to be found. I wouldn't worry about her, Naruto said. Unless she could find a music shop somewhere, she won't be coming back. A cloaked figure loomed in the alleys of Konoha. It had been 2 weeks. She tried to go back, but that only ended in pain. Her hand moved to the back of her neck, and rubbed it, the consequence of failure still fresh in her mind. She hated her life. Correction, she hated her need for one. She had no reason to live, but she could not bring herself to suicide. So instead, she cried herself to sleep every night, and hoped she would not wake up. She hoped in vain. She could not even bring herself to starve to death. She had tried, but her resolve failed and she stole an apple from a corner shop. She had no money, no shelter, she barely had any food. And her neck was killing her. Literally. Why is it that she had heard stories of people who were able to reconstruct their life, after something as tragic as a family massacre, but she was unable to even begin? What did they have that she didn't? Hope. A voice said in her head. Hope. What hope? What could hope possibly give her? Life. Where can I find this hope? Then, words that were spoken but 2 weeks ago drifted into her mind. Then she knew what had to be done. She had to find the Namika's mansion. Naruto walked in his mansion, finally getting used to the idea that it was his, and headed to the kitchen. He felt too lazy to walk all the way to Ichiraku, so he decided to finally use the recipe his father and or mother left him. His ear twitched. Why, someone cried behind him. Naruto quickly grabbed the attacker's hair and pinned him to the counter. He corrected himself, shoulders are too narrow. Then she began to cry. Oh, great. He sighed. What is it you want from me? I want my F_ing life back. Tayuya, look, if you want to kill me, you're gonna have the hardest time. I don't want you dead. I want you F_ing to help me. Then please ask. You won't impress me much if you attack me out of nowhere. I need you to help me. Well, what can I do? Look at my neck. Then he saw it, a black shape with 3 arms stretching outward. A cruise seal. Stay right there, Naruto said as he released her. He began analyzing it. He quickly sent a message to Kyuubi. Alright, come with me, Naruto said. He led her down to the training area. Tayuya heard the rustling of papers in the next room, and watched as a beautiful woman come from another room, a small silver tube hanging in the kunai sheath strapped to her leg. The rustling stopped. I have it, a strong voice said from the room. It's the seal of the clouds. A red-haired man said as he came into view. A scroll was in his hands. Let me see, Naruto said. Kyuubi handed him the scroll. He quickly looked it over. Alright, Tayuya. Before I continue, you need to know this. What? I can remove your seal, however, it will require something from you. Anything. You must make a conscious effort to change an aspect of your personality. What? That's how it works. A seal like this is bound to you through character traits. So what? I just had to stop doing something and it'd come off. Not quite. Normally, if the trait changes, it simply follows the change. However, I have found a way to keep the seal from adapting. My question for you is, are you willing to make a change? Of course. You can never go back. Never. You must die to your old self, and be reborn to a new self. I'm 6 feet under. Then Tayuya, from this day forward, Naruto's hand started to glow red. The old Tayuya will be no more. His hand came down on her seal, and her life flew before her eyes. When the memories stopped barraging her mind and her vision cleared, she saw her seal for the first time. There it hovered in the red aura around Naruto's hand. Never again, he asked. Never again, she repeated. And seal faded into dust. Now come on, we should get you to Tsunade. What? Why? Naruto smiled. Everyone born in Konoha has the right to become a ninja. 2 hours later, Tayuya walked into Tsunade's office, a leaf headband on her head. So Naruto, Tsunade said to the man sitting in her office, I suppose you want her on your team. Well, it couldn't hurt. This is going to be a mess of paperwork. Tsunade grumbled. Hokage-sama, Tayuya said. Please, call me Tsunade. Tsunade, I have some pretty earth-shattering news with me. What? Orochimaru's alive. Orochimaru's alive. Tsunade yelled, standing up and tipping her chair. Sandaime scowled. He's getting harder to get rid of. He's alive. Kyuubi roared. How could he be alive? It was blood I drew from that body. From what I could gather, Tayuya began, he used a very powerful puppet jutsu, where instead of using chakra strings, it temporarily moved his soul into an identical puppet. ARG. Kyuubi yelled, wanting nothing more than the snake's head on a silver platter. However, Tayuya said, all of the damage you did to the puppet greatly weakened him. But he's had 4 years to strengthen himself. Naruto said. Well, there's a flip side to everything. Hinata said, 4 years of peace, 4 years of our enemy becoming stronger. Tsunade fell back into her chair and sighed. Very well, you are dismissed. I'll have some Anbu look into the recent activity of Otogaku. Very well, besides, we have to do some training. Naruto said, hinting at Tayuya. Ah, why won't you pop? Tayuya said, screaming at the water balloon in her hand. It's not that hard, Tayuya. Hinata said, watching her. Easy for you to say, she said as she tried it again. The balloon refused to burst. Frustrated, she threw the balloon onto the ground, where it popped and splashed on the ground. Hinata pulled another one out the bucket next to the infuriated ninja. All you have to do is get the chakra rotating in enough directions. I know what I have to do, she screamed. The balloon still did not pop. She tried again, and again, and again. It was driving her mad. Finally she simply sat down, too infuriated to continue. Why won't it pop? Hinata cleared her throat. Are you ready to listen to my advice? Tayuya grumbled something that sounded like a yes. If you need a jumpstart for popping these, try using your other hand to start the multiple rotations. Tayuya let the words process and picked up the balloon, like this. She asked as she moved her free hand around the balloon. Suddenly, it burst in her hand. Hinata smiled, yes, like that. Naruto then entered, coming back from the library of jutsus. So, how's it going? She was able to pop the balloon. With the help of her free hand or not? With him, well, it will do for now, but soon, I'll want you to be able to do it one-handed. Fine, I'll accomplish that later. Now what? Tayuya said. Now you can take a break. Oh, thank heavens, she said as she fell onto a nearby bench. We also brought lunch, Naruto said, as 3 shadow clones made their way in, each carrying a bowl of ramen. Don't you have anything else to eat in this house? Tayuya complained. It's all he eats, Hinata said. Don't worry, it's not the worst food, and it's easy to learn to love. I personally don't know what you guys have against it. Naruto said, slurping down the noodles. It is truly the food of the gods. Yes, I know it is, Hinata said. Naruto was about to say something when he remembered a question he had earlier that day. Oh, Tayuya, I've been meaning to ask you, what was your big change that you decided on? Well, I decided to finally listen to Jirubu's advice. I gonna stop cursing my guts out. That's great news, Hinata said. Ah, that reminds me, Naruto said, I have a gift for you. Another shadow clone entered the room, carrying a gift-wrapped package. For you, he said, handing it to Tayuya before puffing out of existence. Tayuya began unwrapping it and stopped when a black case was revealed. Keep going, Naruto smiled. She found the 2 clasps on the box and carefully undid them. Her trembling hand lifted the lid to reveal a long slender flute. I figured that you were most proficient when you play one of these, and I owe it to you. Tayuya was speechless. In one day, her life had gone from looking up to sea rock bottom, to living on top of the world. I also took the liberty of picking out a new wardrobe for you. I'm sure that Oto uniform holds enough bad memories. They'll be in your room, 2nd floor, 3rd room down the hall on your right. I think you'll like the selection. Tayuya came down the stairs, into the training basement, where Hinata and Naruto were eagerly awaiting to see how she looked in her new clothes. She had picked a black and red shirt with a swirl emblem on its front, with black shorts that came to just below her knees. She also wore black braces, reinforced with steel, which came up to the back of her palm, and was connected by ring-like holes for her fingers to slip through, and black shinobi sandals. After a minute of uncomfortable silence, Tayuya asked, does it look okay? Are you kidding? Naruto said, I've only seen one person more beautiful, and she's sitting right here. He pointed to Hinata. It was true, she was rather stunning in her new outfit, and it was also functional. The red really complements your hair, Hinata said, as she looked the girl over. Thank you, Tayuya said, but before she could say anything else, however, a rubber ball was thrown at her. Part 2 of you training, break the ball. Naruto said, as I have said before, the Rasengan is my team's signature S-rank move. You are going to be the one to break the record for learning it the fastest. Understood. Tayuya began. Good, now if you'll excuse me, I have to see a Biju who wants to break something. Kyubi couldn't possibly be in a sourer mood. He had actually begun to feel good about himself when he found out that slimy, backstabbing, snake was still alive. He had half a mind to release one of those prisoners, just so he could send a message, and the other half wasn't disagreeing. The only thing that kept him from marching up to the Hokage's tower was a voice in his head that told him it was wrong. he grumbled. He needed to kill something. Not too far from where he walked, Naruto was talking to a seemingly young, beautiful woman. Look, Jasmine, I need you to talk to him, he wants to kill someone right now, and I need him to keep his mind off of learning that Orochimaru is alive. Why do I have to help him? Because you're the best candidate, he said, moving behind her. You, of all the kitsune, are the closest to him. Besides, how many other beautiful kitsune could possibly make him smile? Remembering what had happened back on Hokage Mountain a couple of nights ago, Jasmine wasn't sure she was the best candidate. I don't think. Nonsense, you'll do fine, now get out there. Naruto gently pushed her into the street, and unknowingly pushed her into Kyuubi. She looked up into his dark red eyes as Kyuubi was shocked at her sudden appearance. We're so close, Jasmine thought, and then she blushed and quickly backed up, sorry. Jasmine. Yes. What are you doing here? Quickly, Jasmine pieced together a lie about how Naruto accidentally summoned her for a job. I was willing to help, until I learned that all he needed was some shopping done. But here I am, what we are reduced to. Kyuubi smiled, you do know that the market is on the other side of town, right? Jasmine mentally cursed. Naruto sent you be with me, didn't he? Yes, she hesitantly replied. Fine, I could use some company. They walked in an awkward silence for a couple of moments before Kyuubi started, yeah, Jasmine. Yes. About what I said the other night, I was a jerk. No, it was my fault, you just wanted to be alone, I understand that. Yes, but I did something I shouldn't have done, I reduced the death of your family to a sob story. If anyone did that to my family's death I would kill him. Jasmine saw his regret in his eyes and decided to move on to a more comedic conversation. Didn't you call your family's death a sob story? Who? You said something like, why would I need to hear your sob story, I have one of my own, you're not going to kill yourself, are you? She said, smiling. Kyuubi caught on, maybe, I'll have to catch myself first. Oh hey, what do you know, that was easier than I thought. Jasmine laughed, and it was a beautiful laugh, to anyone's ears it sounded like the most beautiful music. Kyuubi loved that laugh, it reminded him of Kajin's. They continued on their way through the town, Kyuubi slowly forgetting that he had any problems at all. A month later, Tayuya could finally summon a Rasengan with one hand, however it was taxing, so Naruto told her to keep practicing until she felt like she could do it with no difficulty. Now she stood in Naruto's basement for a final evaluation of her skills. Hinata and Kyuubi were also watching Tayuya's exam. Excellent. Naruto said as a critical eye looked over the perfect blue sphere of chakra. Now, what other jutsus do you have? I have some genjutsus and a summoning jutsu where I control the summons with my flute. Well, let's see them. Tayuya played a melody and suddenly there was a puff of smoke behind her. When she turned to see them, her mouth hung open. They were as tall as she was, maybe a little taller, they all had a golden sash at their waist, they were all well muscled, and they all had shining blue eyes. One had a glimmering sword at his side, another carried a silver mace, which seemed to be comprised of angel wings, and the third one had his hands in two golden tiger claws. Upon seeing their master, they bowed low and said in unison, Lady Tayuya, how may we serve you? Tayuya looked at them with wide eyes and open mouth. I know you. Should there be a reason that you do not know us? The one with the sword said. I know you, but I don't know you, she said, ignoring the summons's words. What do you mean? The one with the tiger claws asked. I know who you are, and what you do, but I can almost guarantee that I've never seen you guys in my life. The summons looked heartbroken, and their faces multiplied her pity for them. But, I feel like you belong with me. I think I know what's going on. Naruto said as he stood up, the seal of the clouds, in order to discourage the wearer from trying to remove it in its early stages, it corrupts and changes the wearer's memories so that her life will seem worse than it was before the seal. Naruto walked over to the summons. I theorize that these are your original summonings, while what you have been using are corrupted versions of them. Is that why I feel like I know them? Because I do know them. That's my guess. Naruto said. I guess it'll suffice for now. Tayuya said, shrugging her confusion off for now. Well, I suppose introductions are in order. Naruto, Hinata, Kyuubi, I'd like you to meet the Tenshi Angel brothers, Giri, Shin, and Kugi, Honor, Truth, and Justice. The introductions were made, and then Tayuya dismissed them. Then she played some other melodies, each one Naruto found himself either in bliss or pain. When she finished, Naruto was slightly disappointed. Alright, we have to teach you some more serious jutsus, but be warned, tomorrow, you are going to go through some of the most grueling training of your life. Tayuya flopped down on her bed. Her first day of training had been torture that was beyond anything she had experienced in Konoha. Flashback. 99-100. Good, take a break. Naruto said, as he stood over the exhausted form of Tayuya. It was her 5th set of 100 push-ups. She rolled over, so she could try to get up. When she did, Naruto came back. Now I want 800 laps. Around the field. Tayuya groaned. No, around Konoha. Flashback end. Tayuya silently cursed the buffoon who had inspired the physical labor Naruto dared call the workout. Somewhere in Konoha, Guy sneezed. Yosh. I will have the words spoken about me be about my flames of youth. I will run 3,000 laps around Konoha. After a month of Naruto's abuse, he began to let off and teach her the Kubikan. She was a natural. Any training dummy put before her was shredded by the chakra she laced her punches with. Very good, Naruto said, as she went through another hey person. Thank you, I do try. Tayuya said. Naruto smiled, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto cried, and Tayuya suddenly found herself fighting Narutos instead of training dummies. She was able to take a good number before Naruto was able to subdue her. Good job, Naruto said, reaching his down to pick her up. You should be able to take on any chunin who would dare lay a hand on you. Well, it's good to know I can take care of myself. Tayuya said. Team Fox walked into Tsunade's office, where Kiba's jaw crashed to the ground after getting a look at Tayuya. Well hello there, my name's Kiba, and yours? Tayuya gave him one look, none of your business, flea boy. Naruto laughed. Tsunade sighed. Why couldn't Naruto pick normal people, instead of loudmouth clones? Before another fight breaks out, Tsunade began, I have a mission for you. Teammate, you are dismissed. Teammate left, with Kiba nursing his bruised ego. We have gotten word of some Oto activity in the nearby forests, and we want you to make sure that ends. Not a problem, Naruto said. Team Fox was quietly slipping through the forest near Konoha. Naruto's ears were twitching at every sound. Hinata's Byakugan was active, Kyuubi was sniffing the air occasionally, and Tayuya and the Tenchi brothers were ready to strike at a moment's notice. Suddenly Naruto froze. Everyone else followed his example. He looked to Hinata, who increased her vision range. She then held up 3 fingers on her left hand and 4 on her right. Kyuubi carefully slid over TP Tayuya and explained, 4 teams of 3. He whispered. Naruto slowly pulled out a 3-pronged kunai, and gave a foxy smile. He held up his hand and began to count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Sound Nins were enjoying the rest of the day they had, and were about to call for dinner when out of nowhere, a kunai hit the trunk of a tree. Suddenly, there was a flash of yellow light, and there stood someone they had been told to avoid whenever possible. Boo! The camp went into chaos. One unluckily prepared chunin suddenly attacked Naruto, only for a chakra-laced punch to hit him in the chest and cause his heart to explode. Suddenly, another ninja they were told to flee from appeared, her Byakugan seeing everything in the whole camp. She was joined by the feared Kyuubi, holding a sword made of pure chakra, and laughing maniacally, I want blood. Ha. As if that weren't enough, 3 buff, angelic warriors, jumped from the trees, and began attacking with gold and silver weapons. Hinata disabled 3, hitting their legs till they went numb, then their other limbs were forfeit. Kyuubi took out his 3 almost nonchalantly. The Tenchi brothers also made quick work of their foes, and Kugi administered quick justice on them with his sword. Naruto was able to take the last 2 alive. When they were finished, they tied the survivors together, and Naruto began his interrogation. Can you go tell Tayuya it's okay to come out now? He asked Hinata, who nodded before Naruto threw a sadistic smile at his captives. Now, I'm going to see if there are any smart ones among you, answer my question right, and I'll go easy on you. What are you doing here? One major idiot sat up and cried, we'll never tell you. Naruto looked at him, and then turned to Kyuubi, you can eat that one. Kyuubi looked at him for a couple of seconds. The man had a smug grin on his face, almost knowing that no man would eat him. It was apparent that he did not have the latest edition of the bingo book, or he would know that Kyuubi was no human. Kyuubi took his chakra sword, rammed his next meal in the heart, and dragged him over to the center of the clearing where he lit it on fire. Now, unless someone wants to become seconds, you'll tell me what I want to know. Naruto said. No one took him seriously until they saw Kyuubi bite into a disembodied arm. Naruto was about to be bombarded with answers when another ninja said, "Go ahead, feed us to your demon. We won't tell you anything." Their resolve strengthened, the ninjas sat quiet. Naruto looked at the man who had spoken up, and punched him in his goods. The man began screaming at the top of his lungs and his voice was 5 octaves higher. When he finally settled, Naruto spoke up, "If you think he's overdoing it, I did make his balls explode." One of the 3 remaining candidates fainted. "This is going to be fun," Naruto said. Naruto and his team walked into the Hokage's office, dragging a half-crazed Oto Nin. "This guy will tell you all you need to know," Naruto said. "Ponies," the Oto Nin said. "As soon as you knock some sense into him." Tsunade's eyebrow rose. "Don't ask," Naruto said. "So you only brought back 1 prisoner?" "Yes. You only left 1 alive." "No. It's my happy place," the Oto Nin mumbled. "Well, where is the other one?" "Well, you see, Kyuubi has been pretty furious at Orochimaru and decided to send him a message." Otogaku, the Otokage, as he named himself, was sitting in his office when a knock came at the door. "Come in," he said in a raspy voice. "Ah, sir, we have a report from the scouting party in Konoha." "What is it?" One of the ninjas returned. "Sir, he has a message for you." Another ninja came in, bragging a piece of flesh that was curled in the fetal position. The mass of flesh kept mumbling, "So much hate, so much hate." The Otokage moved to get a good look at the ninja. On his head the letter NN and K were written, placed there by a sharp kunai. The Kage knelt down, and looked into the nin's eyes. "What happened?" The ninja looked at him, as if noticing him for the first time. Then he began to laugh. "They're coming for you. Ha ha, the fox and the flash are coming for you. Ha ha ha." "Who?" "The 9 Tails, and his master." The Otokage suddenly became very serious. He turned to the ninja closet to him. "Kill him." On the other side of the world, Itachi was suppressing a headache. "So what are we going to do now, Itachi-san?" Itachi was tempted to bash him over the head with a shovel. The only things that kept him from doing that, however, were the lack of a shovel, and the Sharingan that Toby had shown him. "We're chasing a Jinchuriki that fled to the wave country. Do you think we'll catch it, Itachi-san?" "No." "Why not?" "Because there are some spies watching us, and they just left to tell Konoha to send someone." Toby seemed to quiet down a bit. Well, should we do something about it?" "No." "All right." They walked in silence for a while. "Who do you think they'll send, Itachi-san?" "Team Fox." More silence. Itachi looked over to Toby, who seemed lost in his thoughts. Itachi found this both relieving, and frightening at the same time. Team Fox entered into the Hokage's office, ready for whatever mission awaited them. Tsunade met them with a grim nod. "Team Fox, I have a mission of the utmost importance for you." "Need us to clean your garage again?" Naruto asked. Tsunade glared at him. When the laughs died down, she continued, "I have just received word that Akatsuki is heading for Wave." The team got more serious. "Do we have any idea who is in the team?" "Yes, one of them is Itachi, the other is of unknown skill and power, his name is Toby. I want them both brought back alive." "Yes, ma'am. However, I have one request." "What is it?" "Can Team 7 accompany us?" Tsunade looked at him. "You're requesting help from another team. I never thought I'd see the day." She mumbled before continuing. "All right, I will inform them. Naruto, you'll be the leader. You have 1 hour to pack your things, then meet at the gate. Get to Wave as soon as possible." "Yes, ma'am," they said before they disappeared in smoke. Team Fox stood at Konoha's gates, waiting on Team 7. Kakashi, seeing how this involved Akatsuki, decided to ignore Obito protocol and be on time for once. Sakura took a little bit of waiting, seeing as how this was an important mission. She had to make doubly sure she had everything she needed: medical supplies, extra kunai, storage scrolls filled to the brink with weapons, etc. Sai was there, smiling a genuine smile. When asked about it, he said he was in love, which earned a round of applause from the rest. Sasuke arrived last, a scowl painted on his face. Naruto made a note to keep reminding him that they need to bring them back alive. "All right, you guys ready?" Naruto asked. They mumbled. I'll take that as a yes, let's go. He said, biting his thumb. Kuchio's no jutsu. He cried, slamming his palm on the dirt. As the smoke cleared, before them stood 4 seven-tailed foxes, each one was a little bigger than a horse. All right, Kyubi, go with Tayuya. Hinata, you're with me. Kakashi, you go with Sai. Sakura, you and Sasuke take the last fox. Any questions? Sasuke began. Good, let's go. Naruto yelled before jumping on one of the fox's back, quickly followed by Hinata. Kyubi jumped on Anther Fox and Tayuya followed his example. Kakashi shrugged and grabbed Sai and jumped on a third fox. While Sakura and Sasuke looked slight unsure about it, the fourth fox was able to get underneath them. Suddenly Naruto's fox reared up and howled, while Naruto and Hinata hung on. Let's get to Wave and catch some criminals. Naruto yelled. And they were off. Itachi frowned. They were having too much success. They needed to able to let this guy go. The problem was he was so weak that it couldn't be convincing. The Jinchuriki in question was the container of the Rokubi, a 6-tailed shark, and he was the saddest thing Itachi had ever seen. He knew 3 jutsu, he stunk at taijutsu and his ninjutsu was worse, he didn't know any genjutsu, but if he did, Itachi would be willing to bet he would stink at that too. They were chasing the vessel down the Great Naruto Bridge, and the Jinchuriki, who despite his horrid ninja skills, was very fast. You'll never catch me alive, Akatsuki. A mellow voice sounded from the boy's lips. Please don't threaten to kill yourself, we have too many of those. Itachi thought grimly. Please don't die, Rokubi's vessel-san, we need you alive so we can take over the world. Toby cried. Rokubi's vessel turned and gave Toby a look, he then turned to Itachi, is this guy for real? Itachi sighed, that's a question I don't even want to answer. The Jinchuriki stood on the edge of the bridge. Go away, he yelled. Please come with us, Jinchuriki-san, we promise to only knock you out. Toby pleaded. Again all he got was a look. Itachi approached. Stay back. The vessel cried, a blue-gray chakra leaking from him. We promise we won't hurt you. Itachi said. I know you won't, the vessel said, the chakra taking the form of a shark's tail. He quickly turned and jumped into the water. Itachi ran to the edge of the bridge, just in time to see Rokubi's vessel swim across the waters at high speeds. Itachi cursed, while mentally he was thanking heaven for the save. Itachi turned away and was about to leave when he saw 4 horse-sized foxes. And where do you think you're going? Naruto asked from one of the foxes' backs. Is this Team Fox, Itachi? Toby asked, no longer acting polite. Yes it is. Then should we run? No, Toby, we'll fight. Very well, Itachi-san. Itachi slipped into a taijutsu stance, while Toby seemed to start hand signs. Kaiten, Gukakyu no Jutsu. Toby yelled, pulling his mask just above his mouth so that the flames would pass unhindered. Hinata jumped off the fox, Suten, Suijinheki. She said before spitting a jet of water from her mouth, which met the fireball head-on. Kakashi, you and Team 7 take the guy with the orange mask, Team Fox, we take Itachi. Naruto said. Naruto, let me take Itachi. Sasuke yelled. No Sasuke, we need to make sure they get back alive. I need to be sure he won't be killed. But. No buts, Sasuke, just leave Itachi to us. Sasuke took one look at Itachi, sighed, and then turned to fight Toby. Hinata was launching jutsu after jutsu against Itachi, who dodged each jutsu as they came at him. Suten, Suigarden. Hinata yelled as 4 water drills came from underneath the bridge to hit their target. Itachi nimbly dodged, as the raging torrents flew past him. When suddenly, Kyubi came at him with a sword of chakra and sliced down at his arm. Itachi barely made it with his hand. Hinata came at him again, attacking in the Kyubikan, when suddenly, 3 angel warriors attacked from behind. He was able to keep them at bay with the aid of his Sharingan. He then began some hand signs, Kaiten, Hausenka no Jutsu. He said as he shot 7 fireballs from his mouth. Hinata acted for defense, Suten, Mizurapa. She yelled before launching a strong stream of water towards the fireballs. He was about to counterattack, when Kyubi was suddenly in front of him, attacking with Kyubikan punches. Itachi was able to dodge with the aid of his Sharingan. When suddenly he found one of the angel warriors attack him with a huge mace. He nimbly dodged out of the way, only to get in the way of another angel warrior, who tried to take his head off with a sword of light. Suddenly something hit his back, and he felt so miserably weak. He turned just in time to see Naruto, holding seal paper and an ink brush in his hand. Sorry I had to use a cheap shot, but then again, I do need you to be alive when we get back to Konoha. Itachi then did something he had not done in years, he smiled. Then, he passed out. Toby was fast. Seriously fast. As Sai came at him with an ink sword, Toby simply grabbed Sai's wrist, and pulled him into a charging Sakura. Sasuke was next up to bat, and was able to slice at him with a kunai before Toby blew him back a good 6 feet with the Fuyuten, Daytopper. Kakashi, however, was having a reoccurring sense of deja vu. He began the hand signs for the Suten, Daibakufu no Jutsu when Toby beat him to it with one of his own, Doten, Doryuden. He lifted his mask and began spitting a long line of mud, which quickly took the shape of a dragon, which began spitting out mud balls with increasing speed. Kakashi quickly dodged, using his Sharingan to aid him, and began another jutsu. Kaiten, Hausenka no Jutsu. He cried, spitting fireballs. Doten, Doryu Heki. Toby cried, lifting his mask again to spit out a trail of mud, which suddenly erupted into a rock wall. Sasuke, now. Kakashi yelled, preparing a Reikiri. Sasuke quickly prepared a Chindori. Kakashi rammed his lightning-covered fist into the rock wall, which caused it to explode into 1,000 shards, while Sasuke came behind him, about to plunge his attack into the masked Akatsuki member, but suddenly, Sasuke released it, so instead of cutting Toby in half, the electricity of the Chindori fanned out and electrocuted Sasuke's opponent unconscious. Nice job, guys, Naruto said as he came over with a seal in his hand. He slapped it onto the man's back. Now I'm going to see if we can borrow a boat. Why do we need a boat? Sasuke asked. Naruto smiled, you'll see. Thanks for letting us use your boat, Tazuna. Naruto said to old man who was rowing the boat. Are you kidding? If you needed my house I would have lent it to you. We owe you guys so much. Naruto smiled, and then turned to the gathered teams. If you're wondering what we're doing here, you guys are about to hear an S-class secret. He instantly got everyone's undivided attention. But I'm not going to tell it to you. Now he really had their attention. Naruto smiled and began to shake the unconscious form of Itachi. Hey, Weasel-san, wake up. Naruto was rewarded with Itachi mumbling, 5 more minutes, Mom, I have to join Akatsuki today. Naruto held up a finger, signaling his audience to wait, and then he slapped Itachi across the face. Itachi sat up, fully awake. Well, almost. What's happening? Is the hideout caving in? Is Sasuke here? Then he began to take his surroundings into consideration. Oh, thank heavens, I'm no longer a part of that cursed organization. Thank you for coming to reality, Weasel-san. Well, it's better than being asleep. Hang on. Sasuke interjected, why are you suddenly buddy-buddy with the man that killed my entire clan, and the man who ruined my life? Itachi sighed, he had no idea how to answer that question. He looked up at Naruto, what do I tell him? The truth, Weasel-san, the truth. Itachi's heart dropped when he heard that. How was he going to believe the truth? Him of all people. He put his head in his hands and mumbled something. Come on, Itachi, it wasn't far-fetched enough for me to think you were lying. I didn't want to do it. He said, hanging his head. Do what? Sasuke asked. What do you think? Itachi asked angrily, a small tear in his eye. Do you honestly believe I wanted to kill Mom, or Dad, or even Shisui for that matter? Sasuke blinked. Of course you do, I played my part far too well for anyone to guess my real motives. Kakashi looked at him, what do you mean? Is it really that hard to figure out, Kakashi? Itachi asked him, well then maybe this will reveal something. He reached to his back and pulled off the chakra suppression seal on him, Kai. He cried, when a puff of smoke appeared on his headband. When the smoke cleared, it revealed the highlight on his forehead to be not slashed, but completely whole and polished. He looked at the surprised faces and decided to explain. I had a mission. Konoha had sent a spy into Akatsuki years earlier, but when he hadn't heard from him after 4 years, we suspected something was wrong, so Sandaime-sama gave me a special mission. I had to infiltrate Akatsuki and become one of them. I knew, in order to do this, I had to become more powerful. So I began to look for something to improve my strength. That's when I stumbled onto the Mangekyo. A tear fell from Itachi's eye. Shisui was also a possible candidate for the Akatsuki spy, and when he heard about the Mangekyo, he knew that's what I would need, so he encouraged me to kill him. I refused to do it, and continued searching. More tears fell, and Itachi began choking on his words. One night, as I was doing my research, I fell asleep. I still don't know what happened, but, when I woke up, I found my Anbu katana in his chest. He smiled at me and said, "It's for Konoha." I still remember the look on his face, a look of victory mixed with pain. I didn't know what to do. He had set up everything, the suicide note, the slits on his wrist, everything. I ran back to the library, and as soon as I saw the Mangekyo scroll I found there were 2 ways to activate it, one of them required no death. That's when he simply broke down. That old fool didn't have to die. He yelled between tears. Naruto picked up the story. Afterwards, Itachi found the leader of the Akatsuki and managed to get in. However, there was one thing standing in his way. Initiation. He had to kill his entire clan. Itachi was able to bargain the life of his immediate family, but he didn't know that someone had joined him on his little trip. Madara. Itachi hissed, his voice full of malice and hate for that name. Yes, Madara Uchiha followed Itachi, and using a genjutsu, attacked his mother and father under the guise of Itachi. That's when you, Sasuke, met Madara. Everyone looked at Sasuke, who took everything as almost surreal. Madara told you to hate him, to despise him, to use your hatred as fuel to become stronger. He tortured you with the Tsukuyomi. He did it all, while Itachi was asking forgiveness to everyone he killed, being sure to make it as painless as possible. It was then that Itachi stood up, the whites of his eyes red from the tears that he had held back for years. Sasuke-ni-san. Sasuke looked at him, confusion in his eyes. I want you to understand this. I'm not asking you to forgive me, but please understand, I never wanted any pain to come to you. I wanted you to live with mom and dad. I wanted you to grow up, knowing what too much power could do to you. I wanted you to grow up becoming a ninja of the greatest degree, and loyal to Konoha, no matter what it asked of you. Sasuke looked up at the man he had hated, and didn't know what to think of him. He still killed his clan, but it was for a mission, and he regretted it. He could see it in his black eyes. Sasuke didn't know what to do, stab him in the heart with a kunai, or comfort his brother. Why? He asked, why did you go through with it? Because, Sasuke, as a friend of mine once said, those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their friends are less than trash. The only friends I had left were you, Naruto and the village. Kakashi's eye teared up, the kid actually listened to me. It was at that moment that Toby spoke up. Who told you that, Itachi-san? Itachi turned to the masked man, why do you care? Toby smiled behind his mask, and lifted it off his face to reveal one black eye, while the left one was covered by a Konoha headband, because that's my line. Kakashi's one eye went very wide. Oh Obito. You didn't actually think that a boulder would do me in, did you, Kakashi? Bu. What's the matter, copycat, got your tongue? Obito said before laughing. I can't believe it. Kakashi managed to say. Well, what can I say, being an Akatsuki spy for Konoha, isn't easy, is it, Itachi? Itachi's mouth was wide open, another loyal Uchiha, that close to him, and a spy for Konoha. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm getting rid of this cloak, the fabric chafes. He unzipped his Akatsuki coat, revealing a black suit of Anbu armor, and he threw it off the boat, Kaiten, Gukakyu no Jutsu. He watched the coat turn to ashes, before turning to the stunned members of the boat, you have no idea how good that feels. The rest of the trip was filled with questions, like how did Naruto know about Itachi, how did Obito survive, and while they answered them readily, Itachi was disturbed by his brother's silence. Obito noticed this and took his shoulder, give him time, Itachi-ni-san, he needs to sort things out. Itachi nodded before turning to Obito, ni-san. Sure. Why not? After all, there are only 4 of us Uchiha left, and personally, I hate Madara, so it only seems fitting that I join your family. Itachi turned to his brother one more time, I'm not sure my family is going to last much longer. Obito frowned, hey, stop thinking about it, you asked for forgiveness, you've done your part, it's his turn now, leave that way. Itachi nodded silently. When Kakashi came up to him, "So you were Naruto's bodyguard and used Tsukuyomi to send him a farewell message, and you told him you'd do your best to protect him, and explained everything that happened to him right before you left." "Yes," Itachi answered. "I was glad Naruto believed me too, or that would have been an absolute waste of my vision." Speaking of vision, Obito began, "What is the other way to gain the Mangekyo?" Itachi looked at him and said, "A selfless act of grace and mercy." Sasuke walked in the back, contemplating what he should do. Itachi seemed truly sorry, but that didn't change the fact that the blood of his family was on his hands. "Do you honestly believe I wanted to kill Mom, or Dad, or even Shisui for that matter?" The words seemed to hold a fraction of the guilt that hung over his head. The story that Naruto and Itachi had woven together seemed true. What's more, it seemed logical. It was then that the words of the Rokudaime Hokage had said to him when his seal had been removed, "Choose wisely, dear boy. One fate can change another, and then another. I will not say to give up on your ambition, but do not let it ruin your life. It is too much of a precious thing to waste. One fate can change another." What did he mean? As Sasuke thought about it, it slowly began to make sense. If he had tried to kill Itachi there, he would have never learned that Itachi never meant to actually hurt him. That still doesn't excuse him for doing what he had to for Connor, even though it wasn't asked of him. "Are you sure about that?" "Of course I am." "Well, what would have you done?" "Not that." "Really?" "Yes. So that's what the old Sasuke would have done," his conscience said, playing his ace card. He sighed. "All right, I'll forgive him." He caught up with his brother, who, like Obito, had ditched the Akatsuki cloak. Sasuke sighed before continuing, "Itachi." "Yes, Sasuke-ni-san," Itachi said, looking at him. Pain still filled his onyx eyes. I forgive you." "Really?" Itachi asked. Surprise was evident in his pain-filled eyes. "Really?" Suddenly, pain exploded behind his eyes. "Ah. Sasuke." Itachi cried, alarmed by his brother's pain. "Ah," he cried, falling to the ground, clutching his head with his hands. "Sasuke!" Itachi yelled. Suddenly, the team seemed to jump into action, running to the Uchiha, ready to use whatever medical skills they had to help. But before they could do anything, it was over. Sasuke lay still and groaned. "Sasuke-ni-san?" Itachi asked, pulling his brother into a sitting position. "Oh, what happened?" Sasuke asked, lowering his hands. Itachi's mouth dropped, followed quickly by Obito's and Kakashi's. "What? I can't believe it." Itachi stammered. Naruto began laughing. "Well, as I always say, believe it." "What?" Sasuke asked confused. Hinata reached into her bag and pulled out a small mirror. "Here, let this explain," she said, tossing it to him. He caught it and looked at his reflection. He blinked twice. His eyes were two red orbs, surrounded by black, creating an atom-like shape that was centered around his pupil. He opened his mouth, and then closed it. He looked up at the mirror, to see Itachi's smiling face. "You did it, Sasuke. You activated the Mangekyo Sharingan, the right way." Darkness. He liked the darkness. Years ago he had fallen into the black, and he never wanted to go back to the light. An evil smirk painted his face as he looked into a mirror. Tall, black hair, well-muscled arms and chest, and two spinning Mangekyo Sharingan eyes. He chuckled darkly as he walked in his gloomy room. Very soon, the world would kneel at his feet. It was only a matter of time. A knock came at the door. "Enter," the man said. His voice was deep like the ocean, but hard as steel. A man entered, wearing a black cloak with red clouds decorating the ends. He had spiky orange hair and piercings around his face. "I have bad news." The black-haired man turned. "We have been betrayed." "Who?" he asked. "Itachi and Toby both. They were spies for Konoha." The orange-haired man said. "Konoha." The black-hearted man seethed. That city would forever be a thorn in his side until he destroyed it. "Itachi and Toby?" he asked. "Yes, and Toby was an Uchiha also." The black-hearted man cursed. "Now I must fight Six Eyes. What are we going to do, Madara-sama?" The orange-haired man asked. "We continue on, they will be nothing but dust against a rock. Our progress will go on unhindered." "Yes, sir," the orange-haired man said, before leaving. Madara turned back into his darkness. Yes, nothing but dust against a rock. What Madara did not know was that grains of sand can weather a rock down to the size of a pebble. All they needed was a strong wind. Tsunade was both relieved and annoyed that Itachi and Obito were back. Relieved because Sasuke hadn't killed them, and annoyed because this was going to be the most complicated stack of paperwork she had ever gone through. So, Madara is behind the Akatsuki and they are trying to take over the world by using all of the power of the Biju to perform an ultimate jutsu that will practically destroy the world. Pretty much. Itachi said, also, we were able to eliminate all but 2 members of the Akatsuki, Pain and Konan. Pain is the wielder of the Rinnegan, which he uses to control multiple bodies at once. Konan, on the other hand, the self-proclaimed angel of the Akatsuki, uses only paper-based jutsu. Tsunade nodded. Do we have any more information about Pain? She asked. Yes, Obito said, pulling out a scroll. I have information on each body and what its purpose is. He unrolled the scroll to reveal 6 faces, each had a name and its job right and below the picture. When we fight him, I suggest we take out the Hellrealm Pain first, since it can resurrect any of the bodies we kill. Thank you boys, you are dismissed. The 2 Uchiha turned to leave, and Itachi. Itachi turned just in time to grab a flat object the Godine threw at him. He looked at it for a second before he recognized it as his Weasel Anbu mask. He looked up at the face of the smiling Hokage. Welcome back. Itachi smiled, nodded, and left. Hinata was walking down a hall in the Namika's mansion, wondering what the letter Naruto sent her could mean. She read it over again, looking for a hidden meaning. Dear Hinata Haim, I want you to come outside, I'll meet you there. Again she read it, and again she could not find the meaning that was written in between the lines. Finally, she gave up on the letter and, crumpling it up, threw it to the side. What does he want to do? She asked herself. She had no answer until she stepped outside. Not 4 yards away from where she stood, was a large, black, structure that she couldn't identify. Leaning on it was a ladder with a note tapped to it. As she approached, she recognized it as Naruto's handwriting. Please climb, it said, with an arrow pointing to the ladder. Hinata looked up the dizzying height, and saw that at the top, there was a platform, which next to it was a small arched window. She looked back at the note, wondering what on earth Naruto was planning before beginning the climb. When she finally got to the top, she found that the platform was a good 4 feet wide, which sat next to the window. Wanting to satisfy her curiosity, she walked to the window and looked out, and found that she was in a tower of sorts. She looked out to see the night sky, filled with stars, and slowly her gaze was drawn down to the ground, where she found trees growing. She looked at these in confusion. There had been no tree there before. There was also a lake that had not been there before, along with a long piece of ground that looked like a marsh. Finally, she looked down at the bottom of the tower, and her eyes widened. Sleeping at the base of the tower was a huge serpentine dragon. Plumes of smoke rose from its nostrils as it breathed. Its red scales reflected the moonlight. Hinata pulled out a kunai, just in case it decided to wake up. It, however, remained coiled around a rock, sleeping. Hinata suddenly decided she should back out, only to find the ladder gone. Where it had been was a note saying, "Trust me." A howl echoed in the background, and Hinata turned to the window, just in time to see none other than Naruto, wearing a silver breastplate, greaves, braces, and a long sword at his side. He was riding one of the 7-tailed foxes he summoned the other day. "Fear not, fair maiden, your knight is here," he cried before urging his vulpine steed forward. He rode through the forest, and disappeared from her sight, when suddenly the sound of battle began sounding from the center. Hinata activated her Byakugan just in time to see Naruto slashing through greenish-black creatures. "Thou shalt not stop me," Naruto cried before running them through with the point of his sword. Naruto dispatched them quickly, before riding out of the forest to the lake. He dismounted his fox, which disappeared in a puff of smoke, and ran for the lake. He ran across the water by applying chakra to his feet, when suddenly, as he just crossed the middle, a huge water serpent rose out of the water. Its ugly serpentine head dripped slime while an evil tongue licked its large fangs. It suddenly struck out at Naruto, who jumped over its head, and plunged his sword into the creature's neck. The snake writhed in pain as it disappeared under the water. "You will let me pass," Naruto said. Suddenly the snake rose out of the water again, and attacked the Silver Knight. "Stay back, creature of the abyss," Naruto cried, slashing at the snake's head. The snake retreated, and struck at Naruto again. As it did, Naruto jumped, just enough to dodge the mouth, and before the snake could stop, Naruto raised his blade, and the snake's eye collided with it. The snake screamed and dove under the water again, defeated. Naruto then cried, for her love, before finishing his crossing and diving into the swamp feet first. Suddenly in his way appeared a gigantic vine golem. It had flaming red eyes, and no mouth, but it dripped slimy goo. For my princess, Naruto shouted before slashing the monster in half with a single swipe of his sword. The monster's halves lay there for a brief second, before rejoining. The creature stood back up, and roared from its invisible mouth. Back, creature of the underworld, Naruto said, before stabbing the creature in between its eyes. The monster screamed before attacking Naruto with a plant-like hand. Quickly, Naruto sliced at the hand as it came toward him, and then used his momentum to throw himself into the monster's chest. The creature's torso opened to receive him, and before Naruto knew it, he was swallowed by the monster's body. In the tower, Hinata gasped, wondering if Naruto was okay. As if to answer her question, a bright, silver sword cut through the vines that made the creature's body, and sliced it in half. After he sliced the monster again, the vines retreated, and Naruto continued dragging through the swamp. Halfway there, he stumbled and began to sink. Quickly, he swung his sword into a dry piece of land, and used the sword to pull himself up. Nothing will keep me from her beauty, he said as he climbed out of the swamp and faced the dragon. The red dragon simply opened one of its eyes, before standing on two of its legs. It opened its mouth and shot a huge stream of flame that engulfed Hinata's knight. She gashed, as the flames seemed to eat her beloved away into ash. As the smoke cleared, she was relieved to see that Naruto had pulled a shield out and used it to keep the flames at bay. Have at thee, fire demon, Naruto cried, taking his sword and slashing at the dragon's neck. The sword bounced off the scales, and the dragon launched Naruto away with a swat of its claw. Naruto was quick to recover as the dragon blew more flames at him. He raised his shield as the flames tried to swallow him. Suddenly, the dragon's claw came down on the blonde, and trapped him as the ivory claws dug into the ground around him, creating a cage. Naruto, thinking quickly, stabbed at the roof of his cage, into the dragon's hand. The dragon roared in pain as he pulled his claws out of the ground, freeing Naruto. The blonde quickly ran at the dragon, and the dragon attacked with its uninjured claw. Naruto jumped over the strike, and kept running at the dragon. The dragon dove at the boy with its mouth opened wide. Somehow, Naruto didn't see the dragon's mouth until the last second. Naruto didn't have any time to dodge at the sharp rows of teeth closed around him. Hinata gasped at the reptile threw its head back to swallow, when suddenly, the silver tip of Naruto's sword pierced the dragon's snout. The dragon suddenly seemed to relax, and its long neck slammed into Hinata's tower, which shook upon impact. Dust was thrown up as the dragon fell, defeated. When the dust cleared, it revealed Naruto, standing on the reptile's head. Lady of infinite beauty, queen of my heart, I have traveled across many paths, and faced many dangers, he said, begging to climb the tower, by sending chakra to his feet. I have come seeking to look upon the face of the fairest creature on earth, for she is too marvelous to be human. Naruto climbed into Hinata's window. And now that I have, I would like to ask you, he reached behind his back and pulled out a small black box. If you would please, in one smooth motion, he knelt and opened the box to reveal a small silver ring, with a red ruby decorating the center, which looked like a Konoha leaf. Marry me. Hinata looked like she was about to faint. Naruto had just given her a fairy tale proposal. She smiled. You know the answer to that. I know, but who says I still can't do things by the book? Naruto said, a smile playing on his lips as he stood and slid the ring on her finger. He kissed her. I just want you to know, that you are better than drugs. Every time I look at you, you get me high. I would do anything for you. I would dive into the deepest ocean to pull out a pearl. I would dig in the strongest mountain to get you diamonds. I would climb the highest ladder to get you a star, and all you have to do is ask. Hinata's eyes watered. That was the sweetest thing anybody had ever said to her. Thank you, Naruto, for loving me. It's all because you loved me first, Naruto said, before kissing her again. Meanwhile, below, Kyuubi cleaned up his ultimate genjutsu. Itachi was jumping along the houses in Konoha, being sure to act as Anbu as possible. Emphasis on act. He had told Tsunade that he wanted to retire from Anbu, and she had agreed, but told him to look like an Anbu until she announced the truth to the village. So he jumped around a lot, wearing his mask, making sure to look like he was off somewhere important. Of course, to him, it was important. It was the workplace of the love of his life. He wasn't sure he could ever show his face to her again because of what he did, but that didn't mean he couldn't watch and protect her. He landed on the roof of a building, not far from his target, and pulled out a pair of binoculars. He quickly spotted the brown-haired vixen that had stolen his heart, and stared at her, wanting nothing more than to be near her. Her name was Ayami. The name itself seemed to beckon him to fantasies of him and her in marriage. He could already see the family photos. He sighed. Unfortunately, that photo may never come into existence. He sighed as he put down the binoculars. He began thinking about what he should do. His thoughts were interrupted by a voice. You know, if you were wondering about her, you could ask. Itachi jumped at the voice, and pulled out his sword. As he turned, he quickly recognized Naruto, but his instincts were in control at the moment, and it was only after getting into a kenjutsu stance that he exploded. Oh, geez, man. Don't do that, Itachi said as he put his katana away. He turned and sat back down, facing Ichiraku Ramen. I'm serious, you should talk to her, Naruto said as he sat down next to the Uchiha. Easier said than done, Itachi said. What if she doesn't understand? What if she hates me? Itachi, I need you to look at me, Naruto said. Itachi sighed and turned. I know exactly how this feels. I thought for years that Kyuubi would keep everyone away from me like the plague. I almost knew that no one would love because I'm a Jinchuriki. But then I did something. I threw caution to the wind and told her, plain and simple. How did that go over? She's marrying me this June. Itachi sighed, and then looked back across the street. It's not the same. How so? You couldn't help being a Jinchuriki, it was beyond your control. But what I did. You couldn't control either, it was a mission that you had to do, that's all there is to it. Itachi sighed again. Look, if you can't tell her, the least you can do is make it easier to accept you when the time comes. Itachi looked up at him. How? Well, I'll tell you what, at around noon, come to the stand under a reasonably good henge, then sort of squeeze what you can into the conversation. What? Naruto smiled. You'll see what I mean. He then disappeared in a flash of yellow light. Ayami was cleaning up the bar, making sure everything was spick and span for the next customer. There was already one eating in the corner, but even so, it was a slow day. That didn't mean that their profits would be small, though. Hey, Ichiraku. Favorite customer coming through. Naruto. Ayami cried, the usual. She asked. Of course. Naruto said as he sat down to eat. As he was waiting, a cloaked figure entered. He wore a black cloak without a hood revealing red hair and blue eyes. Naruto nodded at him, and looked back at Ayami, anxiously waiting for his bowl. When she set it down in front of him, he began dive into the bowl. The cloaked man asked for a bowl of beef ramen and sat down. The man in the corner looked up at Ayami and asked for a second bowl. So, Ayami. Naruto began, I have a question for you. What? Well, I was with some the guys, and the subject of Itachi came up. At the name Itachi, Ayami froze. And I was wondering what you think of him. I'm not sure anymore. She said. I used to think of him as a great man, but now. Relationship. Who told you? Ayami exploded. Sorry, didn't mean it like that. He said while thinking, whatever that is. There was silence for a while when suddenly the cloaked man spoke up. I'm sorry, but the name Itachi is sending off a bell in my head. Would you mind if I asked you a couple of questions? No, not really, Ayami said, trying her best to not retreat into her shell. First off, your name is Ayami, is it? Yes. Well, then, I think I found a message to you. Where? She asked, grabbing the man by his cloak. Where is it? She began shaking him. It's BBBBBBYYYYYYO of TTTTTTTTTT Trarianian Gruants. The man managed to say. Show me. Ayami cried, pushing the man forward. Before she left, she turned to Naruto. Watch the shop for me, Naruto. Sure, thanks, she said before dragging the man behind him. The man in the corner stood up and walked over to Naruto. I never left her a message. Yeah, well, I changed that, Naruto said, smiling. You didn't. Yup. And that guy, Shadow Clone. You are going to die if she ever finds out, Itachi said. What are the chances she'll find out? Rather high, he said. While I was a good guy, I taught her above average perception skills. Meaning I took it beyond above, left, right, behind and below. How? Beyond. Let's just say if the message is 1 year too young, she'll know. Then you better go tell her what's going on. Me. Do you want me to go instead? Itachi sighed. All right. Ayami was punching the robed man into the ground. What? Smash, whir, pound, you, thud, trying, pulverize, to pull. The man had led her to a clearing that was 1 or 2 miles from the ramen stand, and when they got there, Ayami immediately figured the carved message was a fake. This is when she began beating the snot out of the hanged shadow clone. Were you thinking about taking advantage of me, bub? Think again, she said as she landed a bone-crushing blow to the shadow clone's goods. It suddenly poofed away, frightening Ayami a bit. Don't worry, he wasn't going to do anything to you. A voice said behind her. She turned to see a figure she thought she would never see again. There stood Itachi Uchiha. What are you doing here? She asked, unsure about what to do. Should she run? Should she go tell the Hokage? Should she talk to him? Should she beat him into the ground for not saying goodbye? He only lifted his finger. Then it happened, her whole world was turned inside out, everything he had ever done to her came back hitting hard. But among everything he did to her that hurt her, the worst was his leaving. One day out of the blue, he just disappeared, breaking her heart into 1,000 pieces. Her heart had just begun to heal, or so she thought, but when these memories came back at her, it opened old wounds. She fell to her knees and began weeping, numbed by the pain her heart gave. Then a soft hand touched her chin, and lifted it, to reveal Itachi's 2 kind eyes. I'm sorry for what I did to you, so let me make it up to you. Another tear fell, and he caught it in his clenched hand. When he opened his hand, it revealed a growing rose. I'm just waiting to turn your tears to roses. Her mouth dropped open, a rose, from her tear. She looked up at him. Please let me make it up to you. He said, and then he disappeared, leaving nothing but the rose. I've been outclassed, Naruto thought as he looked through Itachi's binoculars that he borrowed. He lowered them and headed to the Namika's compound, where Itachi had been given a room to bunk in until the Hokage told the truth about what had happened. This is gold, a certain white-haired pervert writer thought, scribbling furiously in his notebook. If Tsunade hadn't kept him in the loop, and given him information like Itachi was a good guy, he would have attacked the Uchiha the moment he showed his face. But man, who knew this boy had such good romance in his body? Jiraiya made a note to follow Itachi whenever he needed inspiration. Ayami got home, shocked. Actually, the word shock doesn't even come close to how she felt. The man who had been her love, who had turned his back on the village, killed his family, and seemingly didn't care enough to say goodbye at the very least, had promised to make everything he had done to hurt her right. While on one hand she felt like the most loved person on earth, she also felt like she was betraying the village she had been born into. After all, Itachi was an S-class missing nin. Yet at the same time, he risked it all just to make her a promise. Confusion swam through her head like a fish swims through water. What should she do? She looked down at the rose she was clutching in her hand. What should I do? Tsunade sat at her desk, signing a few papers. When suddenly her door burst open, she looked up to see a civilian girl. She was followed by Shizune, who was, even now, trying her best to keep the girl from disturbing the Hokage. Don't talk to her, just turn around and leave now. Hang on Shizune, Tsunade said. She felt especially generous today. I'll take this. Shizune nodded and left. How can I help you? I came to report that I saw Itachi Uchiha near the village, Ayami said, suddenly feeling like she betrayed him. Itachi. Yes, I see. She paused and looked out one of her windows. Tell me, Miss Ayami. Miss Ayami, if you've had a relationship with Itachi before his defection. Ah, yes, I see. She snapped her fingers and a bear-masked Anbu appeared. Get me weasel. The Anbu nodded and disappeared. Please, sit, the Hokage said, motioning to one of the chairs in front of her desk. She sat. I wasn't going to tell anyone until Wednesday, but it seems that he just can't keep a secret. Who? Ayami asked confused. Just then a weasel-masked Anbu appeared. As he came in, his masked eyes looked down at Ayami for a second, before turning back to the Hokage. You wanted to see me, Hokage-sama? He asked, slightly unsure of himself. Take the mask off, Weasel. She said, then I want you to explain everything to her. Everything. Yes, everything. Yes, ma'am, he said, reaching his hand up to his mask and removing it. Ayami gasped, and then her jaw dropped. It was Itachi. But how? She asked. Itachi replaced his mask. Come with me, I'll explain everything. He went out the door. Ayami looked to the Hokage, who nodded, signaling her to follow him. When the door closed, to Snade's side, this could turn to be the biggest mess yet. Ayami followed her beloved in question down the hall. He stayed quiet, even though she noticed a tear fall every few steps. She asked him a question but he didn't answer, so she continued walking behind him. He led her to the Namika's compound, and led her down a street that ran by the Namika's mansion. He took her to a small, humble abode that had 3 stories and a very plain facade. He opened the door and motioned her through. She hesitantly followed. When she came through, he closed the door behind her. He then led her into a large dining room, living room and told her to take seat on the couch. She conceded to his request. Itachi then asked her if she would like anything to drink. Water, thank you, she said. Itachi left and returned a glass in his hand. His mask still hung over his face. He set it down on a stained bamboo coffee table. He turned to a nearby window, not being able to stand looking at her. Ayami took a sip in the awkward silence, and then set the glass down. Once she had, Itachi began. I never wanted to do it. He went on, explaining what had happened in the weeks before the massacre, his voice getting more choked with emotion with each passing minute. He told her about the Mangekyo, Madara, the Akatsuki, everything. It poured from his mouth like a dammed river that had finally been released. When he got to the end he went back to his leaving her. I never wanted to hurt you, but I had to, for Konoha. I had no choice, I'm sorry. Ayami looked at him, as he stared out the window. She reached up to his mask and slowly pulled it down, revealing his pain-filled eyes. She slowly, tenderly kissed him, then she turned and left. Kakashi and Obito were walking down a street, receiving all of the glances that came toward them with glee. The thoughts behind the glances were easy enough to guess. Is that, no, it couldn't be Obito, who is that and why don't I know him? And in the largest quantity, there was, oh no, not 2 of them. So, Obito, Kakashi began, would you rather have your toes cut off, or being hung from your thumbs? Oh, that's a hard one, I'd probably would want my toes cut off. Okay, now how about this, would you rather be forced to eat fried worms for the rest of your life, or have your knee cheese equals grated to the bone? Would I have a choice of condiments for the worm? No. Darn, well, having your knee cheese grated could rip apart a tendon, and since that's the one thing in the body that would not grow back, I guess I'll take the worms. Okay, so how about this, would you rather have to watch Orochimaru belly dance or a ramen shop burn to the ground? Just kill me now. So I'm guessing that you still like ramen then. Do you still like that Ika carp? It's not crap, it's very enlightening literature. Says you, and the thousands of other readers. Who all happen to be old perverts, and trust me when I say I know, I've met them. Whatever, Kakashi said angrily. Obito smirked in victory, as he continued to walk down the street. After some silence between them, Kakashi sighed, it's good to have you back, even if it did take 3 months of therapy to get over your death which apparently never happened. Not my fault you didn't know how to check a pulse right. That was Rin's job. Oh, right, and she was in on it. How come you told her and not me? Because we need a documented medic nin to witness to my death, and proclaim me dead, so that Konoha records would say I was dead. Geez, talk about feeling left out, you, Rin, Sensei, all of you knew, except me. Don't feel too bad, it was an SS rank secret on a need-to-know basis. Kakashi sighed, well, we should probably head to the Hokage Tower for the big announcement. What? And beyond time. Oh, my mistake, we should wait at least another hour, right? At least. Kakashi smiled, it is good to have you back. Shush, I am getting lost on the road of life, and that takes a lot of concentration. Meanwhile at Hokage Tower, Tsunade was standing on a small balcony, Sandaime stood to her left, and a weasel-masked Anbu stood at her right. When she was confident that everyone had arrived, she began. Ladies and gentlemen of Konoha, I have very important news for you. 8 years ago, the details of Uchiha massacre were made known to the public. It was also released that Itachi Uchiha had been the criminal responsible for it. Boos echoed in the crowd. However, I have come to tell you that instead of being a criminal, Itachi is heralded as a hero. The confusion in the crowd was audible because of the thousands of "huh" that flew through the air. Itachi has been on an 8-year mission where he had to infiltrate the Akatsuki, a S-rank organization who are bent on destroying the world. In order to properly infiltrate the Akatsuki, he had to fulfill an initiation. The first suggestions were too radical for Itachi to perform. Finally, the idea of killing his family came up, but the leader agreed to this and did not want anything less. So, Itachi then bargained for the life of his immediate family, and, able to achieve that, regretfully began the killings. Unfortunately, the leader followed Itachi and killed the remains of his family, excluding Sasuke. So, he still killed his family, why should he be a hero? A voice from the crowd yelled. This was met by cries of approval. Tsunade raised her hand for silence. Actually, I thank you for bringing that up. Not long after the massacre, Sandaime found evidence that the Uchiha were planning a coup. However, this evidence was inconclusive and would have only hindered Itachi in his mission. Down in the crowd, a young woman was listening to this new information as if her life depended on it. However, new evidence proves that the Uchiha were planning an attack on Konoha, which was scheduled 2 nights after Itachi had passed his initiation. In short, if Itachi had not killed the Uchiha clan, most of you would not be alive today. There was silence, the information was beginning to sink in. Now, I realize that most of you won't accept him because you are all too stubborn to get a new idea into head, as evidenced by Naruto, but, Itachi, unlike Naruto, has a couple of people to back him up. As soon as she said the words, Naruto rippled into visibility, and Sasuke shunshined next to the weasel-masked Anbu. If any of you hurt Itachi, we will kill you. And they have my full permission to do so. Tsunade said. But for those of you who have wised up, I present to you, your hero, Itachi Uchiha. The Anbu took off his mask to reveal a face that Konoha has not seen in 8 years. Itachi smiled and lifted his hand, slightly disappointed that many of them did not cheer. A few did, mostly shinobi who understood what it meant to not try to complete his mission, but many of the older civilians were now including Itachi's death along with the plots for Naruto's death. Of course they'd never succeed, but they could still plot. Itachi kept WQing and smiling and then whispered to the Hokage, you never mentioned a coup. Chuand whispered back, couldn't have you compromise anything. There was a knock at the door. Can someone get that? Sasuke yelled into his house. Not me. Obito yelled. Yeah. Itachi cried back, walking up to the door. He opened it and was met by a pair of ruby red lips. Itachi was smothered by Ayami's kiss as she threw her arms around him. Itachi was forced a couple of steps back as she leaned into her kiss. She broke off for a brief second, but only to get her point across. I love you, but if you ever do something like that again, I'm going to castrate you. Before Itachi could say anything, she kissed him again. Tsunade called Naruto to her office and he arrived with his hood up, and his tail hidden. I've heard that you and Hinata are going to tie the knot. Yup, this July. Congratulations. Thank you. Now, I have an SS rank assassination mission for you, and your unique abilities. Unique. Fox ears provide acute hearing, and the tail gives you enhanced balance, and the cloak of invisibility makes you practically undetectable. Alright, who's the target? Orochimaru. Thus the SS rank, part of the mission. Precisely. Alright, I just have one request. What? QB comes with me. Why should he? Naruto frowned, he and the snake have some unfinished business. Naruto said darkly, besides, it's not like he'll compromise the mission. Naruto said, his smile returning. Alright, take him along, but make sure that you bury that snake for good this time. That won't be a problem. QB said, as he appeared in a puff of smoke, and then faded back into Naruto. Blood. His blood. Orochimaru looked up against the black sky, 2 figures, one red, one white. We're coming for you, snake. And this time, I won't miss. Blood dripped from their hands, his blood. For the first time in years, he felt a gnawing fear bite at his insides. You want death, well it's coming. A pain flashed on his forehead, and he knew, he didn't know how, but he knew, into his forehead was carved 2 ends. And were coming fast. Orochimaru sat up, sweat covering his body. He looked around his room, found it empty. He checked his forehead, no blood, no pain, no ends. He sighed, just a dream. Or so he hoped. Goi, a sound sentry, was bored out of his ever-loving mind. There was nothing to do, except stare out into the inky black darkness, which, in all honesty, was his job. He propped his elbow against the top of Otogaku's wall, and sighed. Another man on the walkway came up to him. You do have to admit it's boring, but it is the safest job in the village. Don't use the word, safe, it reminds me how boring this is. There was silence for a moment, when Koi asked, so why'd you come over? No answer. Koi turned to his fellow sentry, and saw that he was now headless. The headless body stood there, and raised an arm at him. Then, a soft, wispy voice said to him, we're coming, to finish what we started. Koi began to back up, stay back, whatever you are, stay back. He was so scared that he forgot the wall came only waist high from the walkway. As he was backing up, his foot came into contact with the wall, but his body's momentum was too strong. He fell off the wall and landed with a sickening crack. The headless body suddenly dropped, and it stayed like that, as if someone who had been propping it up, and dumped it. They were coming. Orochimaru tried to go back to sleep, but the dreams he had of Naruto and Kyuubi coming after him were too much. So he simply lay there, on his bed, hoping that when he did finally drift to sleep it would be a dreamless one. A thud sounded at the door. Orochimaru sat up. What was that? He panicked slightly. He forced the panic down and stood up, and walked to his room door. At the floor was his guard, staring up at him with dead, fogged-over eyes, and two ends carved into his forehead. Orochimaru slammed the door shut. A thought went through his mind, it was such a strong thought it was like he could almost hear it. He's going to kill you. Orochimaru forced the thought down. No, I'm a Sannin, he said aloud to comfort himself, he's not going to kill me. He did once. I underestimated him, it won't happen again. Orochimaru quickly walked over to his closet, and pulled out some anbu braces and greaves. He then pulled out some needles, and a small beaker. I'd love to see him survive this, he said, covering the needles with the poison. He then summoned Kusanagi. He slowly made his way to the door, his sword at the ready. He opened it, and quickly stepped over his guard's body. He snuck down the hallway, seeing more dead bodies with the double N marked onto their foreheads. Do you really think some poisoned needles are going to kill them? After all, you have no idea where he is. He could be right behind us. Orochimaru turned suddenly. Nothing but empty darkness met his eyes. He turned back forward and stepped over more bodies of his subordinates. The hallway he was in suddenly came to an end, and in front of him, another hallway ran perpendicular to it, creating two corners from where his hunter could ambush him. He pressed himself against the corner, and carefully checked both ways of the corridor. Inky black darkness kept him from seeing anything. He took a tentative step to the left, and decided it was the best way to go. He carefully made his way into the blackness. He's going to kill you. It was that thought, that strong thought that seemed to never go away. Orochimaru shook his head. Stop thinking like that, you're a Sannin. One of the greatest. Orochimaru thought, his confidence returning momentarily. His grip on Kusanagi tightened, and he took a bold step into the darkness. He's going to kill you, he's not going to let you go this time. Silence. He told himself. He's going to kill you. Shut up. He's going to sneak up behind you and stab a kunai through your heart. No, he's not. All your work to become the greatest being in the universe will be nothing because he's going to kill you. Shut up. Ha. Your mind snake. Orochimaru almost wet himself at that voice that echoed through the inky blackness of the halls. There was only one creature who could laugh that menacingly. Remember what happened to you last time. Orochimaru shuddered at the memory. This time you won't be so lucky. Orochimaru gulped and continued down the hallway. Yes, come closer, snake, I have been waiting. Orochimaru stopped, fear was coursing through him like blood through his veins. So I have to come to you, huh? Alright, snake, here I come. He's going to kill you, Orochimaru, and I am too. Orochimaru had enough time to realize that those thoughts had not been his thoughts before a kunai came through his throat. I hope you accept my apology for taking your needles, but we can't have anyone get hurt, can we? The voice in his head said before he realized that it had never been in his head, it had been beside him, moving around him, making it sound like it had been everywhere. That voice had been taunting him, discouraging him, wearing him down, and scaring him. That voice had been an invisible Naruto. He had just enough time to think all of these thoughts before Kyuubi was in front of him. We're going to kill you, this time so you won't come back. Kyuubi launched a Kyubican fist at his heart, destroying it. So ended Orochimaru the Snake Sannin, the one who claimed to be immortal. Naruto and Kyuubi quickly put the bodies back where they had found them, and lit them all on fire, leaving no evidence to how they were killed. By the time someone found out and began calling for help, the bodies were already heaps of ash. Not far from Otogaku, the two men sat, one had a white coat on, blonde hair, and blue eyes, and the other had red hair, a red vest, and red eyes. They were watching Otogaku go up in smoke. I'm surprised at you, the blonde said, I thought for sure you were going to cause him some serious pain. He felt my pain 4 years ago, now I just wanted to kill him. Well, then let's head home. The next day, the sun shone brightly in the Hyuga compound. However, the moods of the elders were as sour as ever. Especially since news of Naruto's proposal had just reached them. Neji had never seen the elders in this kind of uproar before. Sure, the time when Naruto had removed his seal had been bad, but this was on a whole new level for them. Something told him something bad was going to happen. Naruto was in his house, about to dive into a bowl of warm, homemade ramen, when a knock sounded at the door. Darn it, why can't I just eat in peace? He got up and walked to the door. When he opened it, he was surprised to see a Hyuga boy, about 12. The elders want to see you and Hinata, he said. About what? Naruto asked. About your proposal, I think it was. Alright, I'll go over, but tell them not to be surprised if the branch members break out into revolution. The boy smiled and left. I'll tell them. Naruto closed the door, and yelled into the house, Hinata. Get ready to go. Where are we going? To see my future-in-law. Hiyashi stood in the Hyuga council chamber, angry as a hornet. These elders had their minds fixated on bringing the Namikas down, and he was fed up with it. A knock sounded, a boy came in, they're here. Send them in. A Hyuga elder said, a grim expression on his face. The boy nodded, then headed out, and after a second, the two fiancés entered. Namika's-san, an elder said, almost concealing his hatred for the boy. Yes, the one and only has arrived, Naruto said, bowing, however, that will soon change. Naruto said, grabbing his soon-to-be wife, and kissing her tenderly. The killing intent given off by the collective council would have made any Junin weak in the knees. Naruto shrugged it off. So why is my presence requested here? Hiyashi explained. They want your proposal to Hinata nullified. Did you show the agreement between you and Dad? Naruto asked. Yes, but they say it is null and void because then you weren't a demon, now you are. Wow, that's shallow. The council fumed. So, I guess that means the proposal is up for debate. Naruto asked. Yes, it is, Namika's-san. Another elder said, spitting the name Namika's out as if it were a curse. Naruto smiled, then we should call the Hokage. No, one of the clan elders objected, this is a clan matter. No, it's not. Naruto said, unless you've forgotten, the Namika's clan, despite being only one member large, is a clan, and because of its clan status, this is a matter between clans, and therefore, it is a village matter, the Hokage should be present. The elders remained silent. I don't care which you choose, although I'm partial to the Sandaime, since he was around for the incident. The elders quickly conversed among themselves. Very well, we shall call the Hokage here. No, you won't. Naruto said, because this is a village matter, and all village matters are to be among the clan heads and the Hokage, so unless one of you becomes the clan head, then you should be doing your best to convince Hiyashi that I'm not fit to marry his daughter. The elders got real quiet. Hiyashi glanced up at him, smiling mischievously, how do you know so much about Konoha law? Kyuubi wanted to be a lawyer at one time, but he had too much heart. So he settled for killing enemies. Hiyashi smiled. So, unless you have anything else to say to me, I say this meeting is adjourned. And as for you too. Hiyashi said, turning to the couple, I hope you have a wonderful married life ahead of you. Sounds good to me, Hiyashi-sama. Please, call me Dad. The dark man sat in his black room. He needed to kill something. He looked around his room, and found a small rat. He grinned. Kaiten, Eden. The dark man spit fire from his moth and roasted the rat, leaving nothing but a flaming pile of bones. Soon enough, Konoha would look the same. Naruto almost glided down the streets of Konoha, as happy as he could possibly be. He had found the secret to his ears and tail. They only came when he was in a five-tailed mode. At 6, there was too much power for them to take form, and at 4 there was too little, 5 was the exact amount, and using any of Kyuubi's chakra to coat his body would disintegrate them. He was suddenly very glad he had a training session with Kyuubi. Flashback. So, according to your theory, using only one tail of your chakra, I should be able to harness the Raisin Shuriken with minimal damage. Only if you concentrate most of it into your hand and arm. Otherwise the damage would only be slightly relieved. Alright, let's test this out. Kyuubi nodded, then faded into Naruto. Slowly, Kyuubi's red chakra began to flow out of him. A chakra tail formed behind, next to his flesh tail, as his teeth grew to fangs. He smiled and began to form the Rasengan. Then, slowly, the Rasengan began to disfigure. It grew 4 long, curved blades, much like a windmill shuriken would have. His smile got bigger and bigger as the Raisin Shuriken got more and more powerful. He then dispelled it. Mission success, Naruto said as the chakra fox cloak faded. Suddenly Naruto felt off balance. He tried to shift his tail to rebalance himself, but failed and fell forwards. He pushed himself up on his elbows and shifted to look behind him. No tail. Naruto blinked. He then went through some very familiar hanzings. Freedom of a trusted servant jutsu. Kyuubi faded into view, and looked down on the prone body of Naruto. Well, I'll be. What about my ears? Kyuubi took a quick look, as human as they could possibly be. Naruto looked up at him for a second, before jumping into the air. Sweet. He quickly ran home to show Hinata, then the Hokage, then anyone who ever knew about his ears or tail. End flashback. He spent a little more time experimenting with his ears and tail and was able to unlock the secret. Now he was on his way to Ichiraku for some well-deserved ramen. When he came in, he found 2 other customers, Obito and Itachi. Obito was downing a 5th bowl of miso ramen, and Itachi was eating a 6th bowl of a ramen he hadn't seen before. Ayami was juggling ramen making and love-struck staring at Itachi. Oh, hello Naruto, Ayami said, smiling. The 2 Uchiha looked back at him, noodles hanging from their mouths. Hafe. Obito greeted, speaking around his noodles. Itachi only waved. I never knew you were the ramen type, Itachi. Naruto said as he sat down. Itachi emptied his mouth, 3 words, Pocky-flavored ramen. He said before diving back into his bowl. I'm going to guess that the new meal is you're doing. Naruto said, looking at Ayami. Guilty as charged. She smiled. Well, I might as well try it out, 1 Pocky, 6 miso to start with. Naruto said. Obito looked at him. Coming right up. Ayami said. To start with, Obito asked. Yeah, Obito's one eye watered. I found a fellow ramen lover, at long last. Itachi scowled, sometimes I prefer Toby. He grumbled under his breath. So I've been meaning to ask you guys, how tough do you think Pain is? Itachi looked over at him. Are you kidding? I've heard he has never been beaten as Pain. Well, there's always a first time, isn't there? Why the Pain question? Obito asked. Hokage-sama hasn't sent us on that mission yet, has she? No, but I feel the time is close. Naruto said, growing serious. Here's your order, Ayami said, handing him a bowl. Sweet. Naruto cried, smiling and diving into his bowl of ramen. Soon it felt at ease, for once in a long time. Orochimaru was gone, finally, everyone was okay, the economy was looking good, Sandaime was thinking about retiring as advising Hokage, which means he would be one less siphon of her money. Now all that needed to happen was for Jiraiya to quit writing those disgusting books of his and the world would be perfect. She picked up the newspaper and looked at the lottery numbers for the week. She pulled out her ticket and compared the numbers. What she saw made her blood freeze. Shizune. Put the whole village on red alert. Prepare all defenses. Evacuate the civilians to the safe house. Get every Chunin and Junin into the plaza. Why? What's happened? I won the lottery. Shizune looked at her for a moment, and then the realization hit her. Whenever Chuan won, her loved ones lost. Yes, ma'am. She snapped her fingers and 3 Anbu appeared. Tsunade pointed to an Anbu with a bear mask. Bear, I want you to get all genin to move with the civilians, it's the job to keep them safe. Bear nodded and disappeared. Cat, she said, pointing to an Anbu with a feline mask. I want you to organize all of the wall's defenses. Cat nodded then disappeared. Lizard, she said, pointing to the last Anbu, he wore a reptilian mask. It's a dragon, he said. I don't care, I want you to scout out the area around Konoha. Then report back with your findings. Dargan nodded then disappeared. She quickly looked around, found her elusive intercom and pushed the button down with almost enough force to break it. Get me Team Fox, Jiraiya, Itachi, Obito, Sasuke and Kakashi. Now. Yes, Hokage-sama. Tsunade quickly looked around for her hat. This was as important as it got. She silently prayed that this was only a fluke. Naruto suddenly appeared in the Hokage's office with a yellow flash. A couple of weeks ago, he had hid a Harashan seal in the room. Hinata was with him, caught in the Harashan vortex. What's going on? Naruto asked. I think we're about to be attacked. Tuzan said. Dragon was jumping through the forest, looking for any clue that an attack might happen, while mentally wondering why he had to do this. Really, she wins and then she thinks the world's going to come down on our heads. Is her luck that bad? Really? He jumped onto a nearby tree branch to catch his breath. He was about to move again when an explosion shattered the tree he had been standing on. Dragon hit the ground with a thud, hitting his head against a rock. His world tipped crazily as dizziness from the hit washed over him. When the dizziness subsided, he found that he was surrounded by 8 figures. One was a woman had blue hair and an origami rose was tucked into it. 6 of them were men that had black piercings covering their bodies, and had eyes that were made of 6 concentric gray rings. The 8th figure was a man with jet black hair and onyx eyes. Dragon tried to push himself up when his arm exploded in pain. A quick glance at it revealed that it was broken. The man with the black hair and black eyes reached down and picked up Dragon by the neck. His eyes suddenly transformed into those of the Sharingan. A sneer appeared on the Uchiha's face. Konoha will fall to me. The gathered Junins and Chunins were standing in the plaza outside the Hokage Tower, worried as a mother whose teenage daughter hasn't come back for 2 hours after curfew. Tsunade came out, onto her balcony, accompanied by the 3 loyal Uchiha, Team Fox, Kakashi Jiraiya, and Sandaime Hokage. Shinobi and Kunoichi of Konoha, I have serious news. I won the lottery. Some of the Shinobi, who didn't know about Tsunade's brother and boyfriend dying, thought she went to all this trouble to tell them that her luck was changing. Those who knew better instantly went into high alert. Suddenly, a vulture-masked Anbu Kunoichi appeared next to Tsunade. Hokage-sama, I was following Dragon on his scouting trip when he was attacked by 7 Shinobi and a Kunoichi. What did they look like? Itachi asked the Anbu. The Kunoichi had blue hair and wore a black cloak with red clouds on it. Conan, Obito whispered. 6 of the men looked somewhat alike, in that they had black piercings and gray eyes. Pain, Kyubi growled. And the last one was different, he had black hair and black eyes. He also had what I think is the Sharingan. Madara. Itachi hissed the name like it was a curse. Chuan moved between Itachi and the Anbu. I want you to lock down all of the gates. Yes, ma'am. Shinobi and Kunoichi of Konoha, Tsunade said, turning to the audience, it has been confirmed, we are about to be attacked by 3 SS rank missing nin. One of them is Madara Uchiha and he wields the eternal Mangekyo, be extremely cautious when facing him. The second one is named Pain, he is the wielder the Rinnegan, and he has found 6 body hosts and is extremely dangerous. Finally, there is Conan, she has a wide variety of paper jutsu and is nicknamed the Angel of the Akatsuki. Jiraiya spoke up. I can tell you already, that as my students, Pain and Conan were extremely deadly, but that was years ago, now, they are no doubt strong enough to kill me. That got the ninjas worried. A figure in a black cloak slipped into the plaza. Tsunade continued, many, if not most of you will die today, but I ask you to stand with us, as the 3 most powerful ninja in the world come to attack us. Immediately the ninjas began muttering to themselves, until a loud din hovered over the crowd. The figure in the black cloak smiled, they were afraid, he could smell it. That's not exactly how you encourage people, Bar-chan. Naruto said. Tsunade looked at him, if you think you can do better, then please, go ahead. Naruto smiled. I think I will. He stepped up to the edge of the balcony, and listened to the low roar of the crowd. He filled his lungs with air and yelled, K-O-O-O-O-N-N-O-O-O-O-H-H-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. The word echoed across the plaza, silencing the crowd. When the echo finally died down, Naruto began. That was my battle cry. I will not lie to you, we, who live on the front line of this village, are about to face a terror that makes Kyuubi's attack seem tame. The crowd remained silent, but if Yondaime was willing to give his life, if Sandaime was willing to give his life, if the Nadaime and Shodai were willing to lay down their lives for this collection of broken buildings, then why should we toss it away and dishonor their memories? The crowd kept silent, engrossed by Naruto's words. If they were here now, I know they would be down there with you, encouraging you, pleading with you, begging you to help them defend this village with your dying breath. If my father were here, he would have wasted no time, and would have gathered his Harashin kunai long before this meeting had even been called to order. He would be ready to die even before the first word of an attack had reached his ears. Next to me stands Obito and Itachi Uchiha. These men have laid everything on the line, their hopes, their futures, their loves, they put everything down for this village. Also next to me stands Tayuya. She found a new life in Konoha, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that she is willing to repay this village by laying it down. When I look at people like these, I see the shadows of the past Hokages in them. I see the Shodai, the Nadaime, even Yondaime. I see them lurking in their eyes, wanting nothing more than to rise up in defense of this village. No one even blinked, but they were all staring at Naruto. This day, I am asking you to thank those who have already given their all for this village. I'm asking you to honor their memories. I'm asking you to keep the dream of Konoha, alive. I am asking for you to help them. He pointed at the Hokage monument, whose 5 stone faces seemed to beg for help. I am asking you to be there for them. And I promise you, I will not sit back and watch like some powerful hypocrite. I promise that before this day is over, my battle cry will ring through the forest another 10 times. I promise you, that if anyone will lay their life down, I will. I swear to you, on my dream of becoming Rokudaime Hokage, that I will protect this village with my life. And I hope and pray that you will do the same. Tsunade took a quick look in the audience. Some of the ninjas had a few tears in their eyes, and others were looking at the Hokage monument, as if those stone faces were speaking to them. And do not worry about your lives, for even if you die today, it will not be in vain. Even though we face some of the most powerful ninjas in our time, take heart, for on your side you have some who are far more powerful. You have Jiraiya, Tsunade, Itachi, Sasuke, Obito, Kakashi, Hinata, Tayuya, and even Kyuubi himself, who have all sworn to protect this village with their lives. But my question to you is if you will let them stand alone. Will you let Konoha fall to dust and ashes? Will you let Madara destroy what the Hokages have worked so hard to build? Will you let all the good we have done be for nothing? Will you? Naruto asked the crowd. No. Many of them shouted. I asked if you will let it fall. No. More this time. I can't hear you. No. The entire Karud was shouting. Then let me hear your battle cry. K-O-O-O-N-N-O-O-O-O-H-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. Again. K-O-O-O-O-O-N-N-N-N-O-O-O-O-O-H-H-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. Let Madara know who he's messing with. K-O-O-O-O-O-N-N-N-N-N-N-N-N-N-O-O-O-O-O-O-H-H-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. Konoha, 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 Konoha. The chant began to rise into the air. Fist of 1,000 shinobi were thrown into the air, ready to lay their lives down. Naruto turned to Tsunade. Her mouth hung slightly opened. That's how you inspire a crowd. The man in the black cloak frowned. Their fear had been decimated by the blonde boy. This was not good. He left the plaza, and before anyone noticed that he had been there, he was gone. For years, Jiraiya had told Tsunade that his telescope was good for something other than peeping at women when he was out of their arms and fists reach. Now he was proving it. There are at least 70 rain nins closing in on the gate. He yelled from the top of the Hokage tower to Tsunade. Good. Keep watching. Will do. Tsunade, however, made her preparations. She dipped her fingers in a purple paint that matched the color of the jewel on her forehead, and painted to long lines that went horizontally across her cheeks. She then drew the summoning circle and performed the Kuchio's no jutsu. When the dust cleared, there were 2 slugs on her shoulders. Ah, Tsunade, it has been a long time. The one on her right shoulder said. Yes, But it is time nonetheless, Hedoro slime. Tsunade said. Have all the preparations been made? The one on her left shoulder asked. Yes, Yushu, slow, they have. Very well, you may begin. Tsunade nodded, Senon Mado. She said, slowly her back began to change into a blue color, while her front grew a pale white. Let's go, she said to her sluggish companions. Meanwhile, Team Fox made their own preparations. Kyuubi was going through the hidden Namikaze armory, picking out several spears, naginators, look it up if you have to, katanas, tonfas, chain whips, kunai, shuriken, windmill shuriken, makebishi, senbons, and exploding notes, all of which he sealed into a large scroll which he secured to his lower back. Tayuya was having the Tenshi brothers sharpen their weapons, and she herself was preparing for a fight, arming herself with kunai, shuriken, and a pair of wrist blades that could retract along her arms. Hinata was going over her fox tube with a critical eye, making sure it was in perfect condition, just in case Desuze kept it from working right. She was also armed with a nunchaku that Tenten had given her. Naruto was filling his coat with Hirashin kunai, while a shadow clone sharpened the fox blade. Madara looked over Konoha, wishing that it was already burning to the ground. His scout had reported that the ninjas were ready and waiting, and not the least bit worried. He smiled, good, it gives them hope, and I will enjoy crushing that hope. Pain approached, Madara-sama, the ninjas are in position. Good, tell them to wait for my signal. Pain nodded and turned away. Something's bothering you. What? Madara asked. I just have a bad feeling about this, nothing more. Pain responded. Be sure it stays that way. Tsunade stood on top of Konoha's wall, accompanied by Jiraiya, in his Senon mode. His nose had grown and had large warts on it, he had extra marks on his cheeks, and 2 toads sat on his shoulders. So it all comes down to this. The toad on his right said. I'm afraid it does, Pa. Jiraiya said. They stood in silence for a while, until Pa spoke up. Ma, he said to the toader on Jiraiya's left, if anything happens, I just want you to know that I love you with all my heart. I love you too, Pa. Ma said, smiling. The whole thing made Jiraiya feel lonely. He sighed. What's the matter, Jiraiya? Chuan asked. Oh, it's only that in my books, my characters always live happily ever after, growing old and dying together, as happy as they were the day they met. He sighed again, but it seems that whoever is in charge of writing my story won't give me that chance. I'm sure you'll find someone, Jiraiya. Tsunade said, trying to comfort him. Jiraiya smirked, who are you kidding? I'm 54 years old for crying out loud. Who in their right mind would want some old geezer as a husband? She blinked as she thought about it. Here he was, an old man, accepting age with only the regret of never being married. And if she couldn't even bring herself to look at her true self, then what kind of woman would want to be married to a man that old? The more she thought about it, the more she realized that no woman in her right mind would be married to a man that old, except maybe a woman that old. She opened her mouth, about to say something when Jiraiya said something that poured guilt into her heart. But of course, any woman I can even hope to be happy with, only sees me as a stupid pervert who writes the most disgusting books on the planet. Then they push me away before I can even say a word. It's not like I'd put them in my book or anything, but no, they won't even give me a chance. That silenced Tsunade very fast. Guilt poured over her conscience as Jiraiya's words played over and over again in her mind. Then they push me away before I can even say a word, they won't even give me a chance. After a few seconds of silence, Jiraiya spoke up again, sorry, I just have to vent every now and then. It's okay. Chuan said, not even daring to look him in the eye. Jiraiya looked up to the sky, and seeing the dark and ominous clouds, spoke. They'll be here shortly, he's just preparing the rain. Kyuubi stood, looking out across the trees. He was at the west gate, staring into space, waiting for the time to come. Kyuubi felt a familiar presence, he turned, and he saw Naruto approaching. Hey Q. Naruto. Hey, Kyuubi, I want to ask you something. What? If anything happens to me, will you take care of Hinata? Naruto, have you forgotten that if you die, I die too? Naruto smiled, no, I haven't forgotten that is how it used to be. Kyuubi looked at him, used to be. I made a small modification to my seal. How small? Kyuubi, there's no need to beat around the bush, you're free, honestly free. But what about you? I mean, your chakra coils are adapted to coexist with mine. You can still come and enter my mindscape, Naruto said, interrupting him. I'm just giving you a little more freedom. Kyuubi looked at him, stunned. Oh, and you won't be needing that anymore, Naruto said, holding the chakra shackle that bound him to the Biju. The shackle shattered, and Naruto smiled. Now just take care of Hinata if I die, okay? He asked. Kyuubi was too stunned for words, so he just nodded. Good, I'll hopefully see you afterwards, Naruto said, returning to his post. Kyuubi just stood there, in shocked silence. He looked at his wrist, unbelieving. Did he really just do that? He smiled. Minato, your son is just like you, big heart and everything. He kept smiling, until the rain began to fall. He turned to the forest, a scowl on his face where the smile used to be. Now it was time for business. The rain came. In a matter of minutes, the rain was coming down in sheets. Once the rain was spread across the village, Pain began his report. They have 100 chunin on the walls, and 50 junin. He told Madara. Good, the Uchiha said. There are also 4 cage-level chakra signatures along the walls, 3 of them are right next to each other on the walls. Nothing to worry about, Pain, but just in case you're losing your nerve. Pain suddenly looked around him. What are you doing? He asked. Just a little insurance, Madara said. I'm bringing you to the battlefield, so you can see your victory with your own eyes, and you won't even think about leaving me when things start to look bad. Pain stared at him. After a while he spoke, just keep me out of sight. He then turned and walked away. Madara smiled. He won this round, and the next was his too. By the end of today, Konoha will be nothing but ash. The rain came. The Junin and Chunin stood, the water soaking their clothes through. Not one of them budged. Lightning flashed against the sky, lighting up the world for a half of a second. Then they came, the rain nins began to trickle out of the forest, then they came in force, coming out of the trees, and closing in on the walls. Naruto looked at them. Over 100 rain nins now were charging the walls, and begging to run up them. Naruto looked down the wall, then to his left, he saw Kiba's face, slightly scared, watching the nins approach. Then he looked to the right, he saw Chuji watching him, his face looking steeled against them. Naruto looked back down at the wall. He smirked. K-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-H-H-H-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. He cried, before he dived over the edge of the wall. He was falling head first towards a single rain nin who had strayed too far ahead. The nin was probably blind not to see the white blur approaching him, but apparently he somehow missed Naruto coming at him and continued to climb. Naruto made contact, grabbing the nin as he disconnected from the wall. Naruto quickly brought his own feet to the wall, so he skidded to a stop, and then he went into a spin, using his previous momentum to increase the speed. As soon as he came around, Naruto threw the nin in his hands at another less than attentive nin, sending them both to a painful death at the ground. Naruto quickly drew the fox blade, and instantly, 3 ninjas tripped, falling to the ground with sickening thuds. Naruto smirked. Welcome to Konoha. Welcome to hell. As soon as Naruto spoke those words, the battle cry sounded behind him. K-O-O-O-O-N-N-O-O-O-O-H-H-H-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. Hinata waited as the rain nins came up the wall. As soon as they did, Hinata quickly used the rain around her to send them a message. Suten, Sushoa, she cried, as a huge column of water appeared, and rammed into the rain nins that had just climbed over the wall. She then quickly drew the fox tube and, extending its size to that of a bow staff, brought it down on the head of another rain nin, bashing his skull in. Here come more, Tenten said beside her as she drew a katana she was using out of an unfortunate rain nin. Well, let's see what they've got, she said as she replaced the fox tube and drew out a kunai, while her other hand was going through half handseals, Taikagaku Ryu, Mizukiri no Yaiba. The rain began to form into a sword in her hand. Hidden waterfall technique, Tenten asked, surprised. You didn't think that the Namikaze Jutsu library was filled only with Konoha Jutsus, did you? Hinata asked, as she lobbed off the head of a nin that had just jumped over the walls. Well, yeah, Tenten replied, as she switched the katana in for a kusarigama, a sickle with a chain and a heavy iron weight before she decapitated another unlucky rain nin. Well, surprise, Hinata said with a smile as the water sword cut an enemy nin's arm before she ran him through. Tayuya and the Tenshi brothers were slaughtering the oncoming rain nins. Giri, with his tiger claws, was ripping through anyone who got too close to Shin, whose heavy mace slowed him down. Kugi stayed close to Tayuya, keeping her safe as she played the notes. Slowly, a rain nin crept behind her, a kunai in hand. The Amin raised the kunai above his head, ready to plunge the knife into her neck when a cry to the right caught them both by surprise, Gatsuga. A spinning drill of wind and body came flying at the ninja behind Tayuya, and killed him. Kiba stood up. So, now that I've saved your life, can I get a name? It's Tayuya, now keep watching my back, she said, before going back to her melody. Kyubi grinned sadistically. The grin widened as the 7 rain nins in front of him began to quiver under the killing intent he was unleashing on them. One screamed in fear and went into a fetal position. I am Kyubi, the demon of Konoha, face me if you dare. None of them dared. Looks like I'm just going to go to you then, Kyubi said. Suddenly, he grew a tail, which extended out to the ninja that was lying on the ground and grabbed him. The following gore would give the nins in front of him nightmares for the rest of their lives. Those that survived, anyway. Kyubi laughed as he licked the blood of his blade. Who's next? The nins answered him by jumping of the wall, screaming in terror. Those that survived ran into the forest, never to be heard from again. Madara smiled. Konoha was winning. All according to plan. Pain, he said, have Asura Realm give them a round. Pain nodded, while another one of his bodies, one whose shoulders seemed to connect to the top of his head, came forward. It raised its arm, and 1,000 missiles shot from it like a cannon. Naruto, still standing on the wall's side, shouted his battle cry to signify the halt of the enemy forces. K-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-H-H-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. K-O-O-O-O-O-N-N-O-O-O-O-H-H-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. The Konoha nins called back. Naruto smiled as he saw the nins retreat to regroup. Until he saw 1,000 bright spots against the sky. Naruto ran back up the wall. Get off the wall. Missiles. Run. The ninjas on the wall began running to the nearest stair, others simply jumped onto a nearby building. They ran trying to get out of range of the deadly explosives. The missiles hit. Explosions rocked the ground and sent rubble flying. Naruto went flying. Screams filled the air. Naruto was surrounded by the sound and screams of pain. When the smoke cleared, he saw that he was in a single clearing of rubble, where the rocks had fallen all around him. He stood up, a little pain in his joints from the fall. He stood tall among the rubble, until he heard a familiar voice behind him. Naruto, he turned, and under the rock, was a face of a man who had been like a father to him. Iruka. Naruto, he said, his voice was raspy as blood trickled from his mouth, you get this guy, and become Hokage, all right. Naruto was too shocked for what was happening to even register in his mind. Do it for me. All right. Naruto nodded. Good, and Naruto. Why yeah. Why you were like AS son to me, then Iruka, the Chunin teacher breathed his last. Naruto, with tears in his eyes, kneeled closed Iruka's eyelids. And you the closest thing to a dad to me. May your journey be quick, and the life in paradise everlasting. Tears fell as he stood up. He lifted his head to sky and his battle cry erupted from his mouth. The word was mixed with a fury of deadly power, and with a sorrow that broke one's heart when he heard it. The word echoed through the forest, planting fear into the hearts of those who had been foolish enough to raise up against Konoha. All except Madara. He had heard that before. He had heard that pain, and it was music to his ears. Naruto looked out into the forest. Team Fox. Uchihas. Kakashi. Come with me, we're going offensive. The rain nins, after receiving encouragement from Pain, charged into the Konoha through the broken wall, only to be met by a ridiculously strong, acid-spitting Tsunade, and a fire-spitting, toad-croaking, hair-needle-throwing Jiraiya. Ha, it's been ages since I've had this much fun, Tsunade said, as she used only a finger to cause a rain nin to go flying. I'm telling you, Jiraiya said, every time you use Sage Mode, you get more and more sadistic. Tsunade only replied by laughing insanely. Madara looked at the mayhem the two Sannin were causing. Pain, We need Hellrealm in there. Pain nodded, and Hellrealm was about to move, when a three-pronged kunai stuck itself into the ground in front of him. Suddenly, there was a yellow flash, and the word Rasengan echoed in the forest, as Hellrealm was sent to his namesake. Naruto was there, fox blade in hand, and the other was the remnant of the Rasengan that killed Hellrealm. I'm giving you 3 seconds to leave and never come back. 3. Madara suddenly activated his Mangekyo, and hoping to catch Naruto in Tsukuyomi, moved to face the blonde, only for an atom pattern Mangekyo to get in the way. Madara, Sasuke said, long time no see. 2. Naruto said. Kyuubi suddenly appeared, guarded from Madara by Itachi. Nagato, it's been years. What are you talking about, Kyuubi? Pain asked. Come on, don't tell me you don't remember. Kyuubi suddenly transformed into a 12-year-old kid with red hair. Conan gasped while the Pain's eyes all widened. Your old teammate, Zurui, Sly. You're Kyuubi? Pain asked, suddenly feeling afraid. Zurui isn't just a name. Kyuubi said before transforming into his human form. 1. Naruto said. Team Fox, Pain and Conan. Team Sharingan, Madara. Naruto said as he ordered the fights. Team Sharingan. Sasuke asked. I like it. Obito yelled as he arrived, before diving at Madara. Team Fox was in a stare down with Pain, and Conan. I've heard you've been spreading lies, Nagato. Shut up. I've heard it said that no one has ever beaten you while you were Pain. But we both know that's a lie. Pain didn't answer. We both know there was one person who could beat you. Pain remained silent. We both know I could beat you. Which is why I'm here. Conan said, as she stepped in between Pain and Kyuubi. Kyuubi smiled, so I see you finally took my advice, huh? Trying to not be as useless as a bump on a log. Shut up, Zurui. She growled. Oh, my mistake, I thought there was actually a person I was talking to, not another fangirl. Shut up. Conan yelled. No, it's funny, here you are, keeping me from destroying Yahiko's body. Oh, the irony is practically dripping off this one. Shut up. Kami Shuriken. She cried, quickly folding 2 sheets of paper and then throwing them at Kyuubi. Kaiten, Hausenka no Jutsu. Kyuubi shot 2 fireballs at the paper weapons, burning them to harmless ash. Impressive, you don't need a Fuyutin anymore, that means you have to have done some improving. She gritted her teeth and was about to attack again, when a hand rested on her shoulder. Back down, Conan. Pain said, he'll rip you apart with all of the Kaiten jutsus he knows. Kyuubi smirked, both wise and unwise at the same time. Wise, in that you have saved her life, and unwise in that it has ended yours. I'd love to see you try, Zurui. Pain said, as his bodies gathered around him. Kyuubi smiled as he stood still, and began making hand signs. Naruto, Kyuubi spoke to him through the mental link they still shared, keep me covered until I finish this. You got it. Pain, seeing the long line of hand seals, began to attack, Fuyutin, Repushu. He launched a wave of wind that had the strength to knock Kyuubi over, when suddenly, Naruto was in between the two of them. Fear of the forest technique, fear of the fox blade. Stage 1, Fire. The fox blade, covered in its flaming aura, cut the gale, and sent a flaming arc at Pain. Suiten, Pain said, trying another set of hand seals, Suryuden no Jutsu. The rain around him suddenly formed into a large dragon. It broke through the flame coming at him, and continued onto Naruto. Stage 2, Earth. Naruto said, running the point of his sword in the ground in front of him. Where the point had tread, an earth wall rose up. The water splashed harmlessly against the wall. Naruto suddenly kicked the wall, which went flying at Pain, threatening to knock him over before crushing him. Reikyu. Pain said, hurling a ball of lightning at the wall, breaking it in half. Stage 3, Wind. A wind arc came at the ball of lightning, and dissipated it. Kaiten, Eden. Pain cried, blowing a huge flame from his mouth. Stage 4, Water. Icy needles flew at Pain and the fireball, putting it out. Doton, Doryuden. Pain said as he summoned a mud dragon, which spat mud projectiles at the water needles, barely saving himself from death. Stage 5, Lightning. A ball of lightning ran through the mud balls, incinerating them, before Pain, who was in the middle of the hand signs for his next jutsu, was forced to dodge. Naruto saw the opening, and finished the jutsu. Stage 6, Grass. Suddenly 2 vines wrapped themselves around Pain's arms. The other pains moved in to free him, while one moved in to attack. Kyuubi, now. Spirit traveling technique. Kyuubi cried, before being sucked into Yahiko's body's eyes. Yahiko's body gasped, and then fell to the ground. The other pains quickly ran to the east. Conan looked at Yahiko's body, which was gasping deep breaths of air. Pain, are you all right? She asked worriedly. Yahiko's body looked up at her, staring at her with two triumphant blue eyes. Conan gasped. Pain's not here, not anymore, I'm free, he said, before fainting. Suddenly, a cry erupted to the east. Conan and the remainder of Team Fox ran to the point of origin to see all of the pain bodies lying on the ground. There stood Kyuubi, a sword in hand, in front of a large grey object. In the center of hung a thin body. Kyuubi's sword was in his chest. You are the biggest idiot, Nagato. Kyuubi whispered, with a tear running down his cheek. Kakashi was doing his best to keep from making eye contact with Madara. He was the only one who couldn't resist the Tsukuyomi as well as the others. So it was his job to find an opening, and use his special Mangekyo ability. The others were either covering him, or throwing some serious jutsus around. Amaterasu. Sasuke cried, as he spat black flames at Madara. Suten, Daibakufu no Jutsu. Cried Obito, hoping to drown the evil Uchiha. Madara jumped out of the way, so that the two jutsus hit, having Amaterasu evaporate the water into steam, while the water cooled the flames from black to a dull orange. Susanoo. Itachi cried, and a large spectral figure appeared, wielding both a sword and a shield. You think that will stop me? Madara laughed, I know its secret. Rain-stopping technique. Susanoo, the god of storms, slowly began to disappear. Itachi kneeled over and began to cough, hacking up blood. Obito went in, engaging Madara in a taijutsu match. Madara was breathing heavily, but was able to punch Obito in the face. Kakashi was moving frantically around the battlefield, trying to find the right opening. Sasuke came at Madara, kunai in both hands, and began slashing at him, like no one has slashed before. Is that all you have? 8 eyes against 2 and you cannot defeat me. You are truly the most pathetic of all of Konoha. Shut up and die, Sasuke replied. And it's all because you refuse to use your hatred. Just die already, Obito said. You refuse to get stronger by denying your hatred. Sip it, moron, Itachi said as he got up. Now you will die at my hands. Come on, give me an opening. Madara raised his arms to the sky, and I shall beat Konoha to the ground. There, Kakashi thought before launching his jutsu, Kamui. Suddenly, one of Madara's arms imploded on itself. Madara looked down at the stub that used to be his arm. He chuckled, things just got interesting. Sasuke renewed his assault, trying to end the life of the man who killed his mother and father. Madara only grabbed one of the kunai out of his hand and began to use it to defend himself. Itachi came at him from behind, only for Madara to backflip over him, leaving Itachi to run into Sasuke. Obito came at the side, rushing Madara, who twisted out of the way with the grace and pride of a Spanish matador. Kakashi prepared his Rakiri, and was about to drive it home, when Madara threw his kunai in the air, grabbed Kakashi's wrist and broke it, all before the kunai began its descent. He threw Kakashi into the recovering Uchiha brothers and caught the kwani as it came down. Still too easy. Sasuke got up from the dog pile. Why won't you die? Isn't it obvious, Sasuke? I'm immortal. No man can kill me. Madara said, lifting his hand to the sky, drunk on his own power. Suddenly, there was a yellow flash behind him, and cold steel was pressed against his neck. No man, huh? Well, how about a Jinchuriki? Naruto's voice said, before the blade cut his throat, and Madara died, gurgling in his blood as it slowly filled his lungs. Konoha, Naruto cried to the sky. 20 years later. The Rokudaime Hokage sat with his feet propped up against the desk, enjoying the perks of being Hokage. Namely, free ramen. He pushed the button on his intercom. Ino, can you be a good secretary and get me another bowl of ramen? I'm not a secretary, I'm an assistant. Whatever, Naruto said as he released the button. An Anbu stood next to him, his mask was that of a toad. What so you think, Yahiko? About what? The Anbu asked. The whole secretary assistant thing. Personally, I. Suddenly, a young boy, about 12 burst into his office. He had dirty blonde hair, whisker marks, and blue eyes. Dad, I need some help here. Naruto sheeped. What did you do this time, Yuku? Trouble. Nothing. Naruto stared at the boy. Okay, so I hid a paint bomb in Konohamaru-sensei's desk, that's all. Konohamaru, upon becoming Chunin, decided he had a love for teaching, and immediately began to teach all of the new recruits. What color? Naruto asked, seriously. Orange. That's my boy. Naruto said, smiling. Okay, Mom's coming over from the house soon for a family picture, you could hide there. Thanks Dad, Yuku said before jumping out the window. His intercom buzzed, Hokage-sama, Team Obito is here. Excellent, send 'em up. Naruto said into the box. A couple of minutes later, the door to his office opened and 3 18-year-olds and Obito entered. One was tall, had blue eyes, gray hair, not from old age, and whisker marks. One his left was a girl with dark brown hair, which was done up in 2 buns, Hyuga eyes, and was wearing a pink Chinese shirt with a Hyuga flame on the back. On her left was a boy with auburn hair, onyx eyes, and the Uchiha fan on the back. In truth, his hair was a relief to Sasuke, it meant that no Uchiha man would grow up with pink hair. There he is, Konoha's Chunin of the year. Naruto said as he got up to hug the gray-haired boy, Iruka, my boy. How are things going for you? Fine, except for that my backbone is feeling like it's turning to dust. The boy said as his father squeezed him. Naruto let him go. So how did the mission go? He asked the Uchiha boy. Fine, although I bet my dad's not going to be too satisfied with the job I did. If he isn't, I'm going to give him the most boring D ranks I can find. The boy laughed. Alright, you're dismissed, except Iruka. What did I do? The Namikaze asked. Nothing, your mom just wants to take another family picture. Again. Iruka asked exasperated. Again. If Yuku messes this one up, I'm going to hurt him. Alright, but no Kubiken or Jutsus. What about? No summoning either. Or, Naruto's intercom buzzed again. Hokage-sama, Team Itachi reporting for mission duty. Good, good, send 'em up. A couple of minutes later, Itachi entered with his team. On the left was a girl with long dark hair, whisker marks and blue eyes like her brothers. She was 16 and looked like she could handle herself in any situation. She took after her mom in so many ways. One of her teammates was an Inuzuka with shaggy red hair, and a white dog companion. At his side was a flute. The other was a blonde Nara, who looked especially lazy, but the fear of his mother, Temari, made him get out of bed in the morning. Understandably so. Hey Uncle Naruto. The Inuzuka said. Hello, Onpu, music, how's my favorite nephew? Doing great. Iruka was staring down with his sister. Shinken, silence. Iruka. She said. You're just not going to forgive me, are you? Sure I will, as soon as I humiliate you to a blubbering blob of flesh. Yes, she definitely took after her mother. Alright, Naruto said, I have a C rank for you guys. A C rank. Onpu asked indignantly. You're giving us a C rank. Want to do a D rank instead? Onpu shut up. Troublesome. The Nara boy said. I would give you something higher, but I need Shinken around for the family photo we're doing today. Sure you do. Onpu muttered. Naruto gave them their mission and they headed off, except Shinken, who had to stay. The Namikazes sat and waited, when suddenly the door burst open again. A little girl, 10 years old, barged into the room, as excited as she could get. She had short blonde hair, blue eyes, and whisker marks. Dad, Dad, Dad. What? Naruto asked the girl. I did it. I did it. I did it. Well, let's see it. The girl nodded, and put her hands in the Tora seal, Uzumaki. She said, and her once blue eyes turned white, with a pupil that extended 4 arms to the edge of the iris, the Namikaze bloodline, the Uzumaki, named in memory of Naruto's mother. Okay, let's see what you can do. Naruto held up a piece of paper, and put his hand behind it. How many fingers am I holding up? 3. The girl said. Good, and now, 5. Excellent, Naruto said, X-ray vision, check. He then moved behind his daughter and held his fingers right behind her head. How many fingers now? 2. She said. Very good, 360-degree vision. He pulled out a kunai. Give me your hand, I promise this won't hurt. She hesitantly gave her father one of her fingers, which he carefully and gently cut the skin of. Immediately it began to smoke. Healing factor, very good. Naruto said approvingly. Congratulations, Karen, sweet. You unlocked the Uzumaki's mature form, and so young too. Karen smiled up at her dad. His intercom buzzed again. Hokage-sama, the rest of your family has arrived. Good, send them up. Exactly 1 minute later, his office door opened, and in stepped in Kyubi and Jasmine, the wedded kitsune of Konoha, Hinata, Naruto's twin boys Tobi and Tekka, his youngest, Archoi kind, still in diapers, Yuku, and Jiraiya and Tsunade. Naruto smiled as he remembered how these two became the latest addition to their family. Not long after the invasion made by the rain, Jiraiya approached Naruto apologizing. When Naruto asked him what he was apologizing for, he shifted nervously. Well, I'm supposed to be your godfather. Naruto forgave him, after pounding him into the street asking, where were you the first 12 years of my life? And he accepted him into the family. 2 years later, he and Tsunade married. Once they were wed, Naruto told her that he finally had an excuse to call her Ba-chan. Naruto grabbed his hat and got into the picture. He had fulfilled his dreams, finally. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.